Right. Are we ready for it? Are we ready for it? Because here we go.
No.
I said Davis said it's going to be late. I don't know what John's excuse is.
Well, John's said that his new work program is he's getting fairly.
Oh yeah, I
late.
forgot, and he got removed, didn't he? Yeah. I say removed. He stepped out. I milk. So.
Got milk. It's got very quiet. It's man.
I was waiting for the background music to kick in there. It's like.
Just lost connection to the server, so it may kill
He lost. He just
I'm in the
about
server. People. I'm in. I'm seeing people dropping.
I'm
That's
just.
it.
He's playing the start video.
Haha. Yep, I was indeed playing the start video. Thanks again to Gareth for that, and to Kevin MacLeod for the music. Hello and welcome back, everybody. How are we all doing?
Yes.
It's hot.
Indeed.
I was like, there's no background noise. The ship's dead.
There's background music. There is background noise.
There's background resonance. Yes, indeed. Yep, welcome along to the further misadventures of the USS Navis. We are currently in the third part now of... Third part? Are we on the third part?
Yep.
Yeah,
Third
blimey.
part.
The third part of episode 9, Return to Beta Niobe. I pay attention, I really do.
Somebody has to.
So,
You
well,
put up the
you would
video,
hope it would
say
be
the
to the end,
things,
but
and
not in
then
this
say
case.
it's done.
Questions.
Of course.
Stoker's first name
Bana. B-A-N-A.
and Hebert's first name.
Admiral Hebert, I think, is April. April Hebert, yes.
Thank you.
This is Andrews making sure that she's got everybody's name for birthday cards in the Admiralty.
Yes, that is exactly why.
And don't forget, you need to get Tannenbaum's first name for her birthday card.
It's going to be like apology for your crazy for Stoker's birthday or asylum birthday. It's like, congratulations, you've been committed.
Who was this? He did say he was going to be late, and indeed
It's
he's here
Navis.
just in time. He's fine. It's Navis! So that should be everybody.
Flipping hell, the world is busy today.
Oh, as a minor aside, Sean, Iron Brew fudge tastes like WKD Iron Brew when it's cold. When it's warm, it tastes like actual Iron Brew. So
Wouldn't that so Iron Brew fudge vaguely be like a boost?
No, an iron brew fudge is just made of girders.
Girders covered in chocolate.
Yeah.
There was no chocolate. It's literally just fudge of iron brew.
yeah, it was hard going when I ate some when it was hot. When it
Did
was
you
cold,
make it or
sorry.
did Sean make it? Because either one of you could be responsible for that kind of thing.
You humans are too dependent on processed carbonated drinks, that's why we shall defeat you. Ha 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 ha, says Ensign Cation.
It's not wrong.
Well, Cation is at the moment on comms, so is Cation broadcasting this to the rest of the ship?
No, he's just beaming this to the shuttle as we desperately try and get back to the Navis. Because Navis, we need you to let it in. You humans are too dependent on processed carbonated drinks.
I do love that Latude, we didn't actually change his character picture, so when you posted in the chat, he's got the old Latude. It's just the token that's got the mustache. It's just like...
That's a good point, actually, because...
Standard basic response. Quiet Ensign generic.
we have got... Let me just into frame here.
I'm still
Who's
amazed
hiding
that
behind the
I got
engineering
away
door?
with
Oh wait, it's paused. Can't open it.
It is
Jenny
paused.
Eric.
I remember Alex doesn't get the joke.
Hey,
They got the joke in the end.
I can't remember
a
which
couple.
game it was I snuck in Eric Jean Reporter.
Well, it wasn't this one.
No,
Yet.
not yet. Give me time.
Our reporters aren't coming in until next Tuesday.
Well, I'm sure everybody
No.
who's actually watching this stream for, you know, the actual Star Trek is to happen.
You can
Oh,
watch
yeah.
it for that.
Are just there waiting patiently. If only Caval was here, says Ensign Lenny. Well, it's funny you should mention that. Because at the end of play last week, if everyone casts their minds back, the Beta Niobe system was once inhabited by the humanoids race known as the Sarpedons, who had managed to avoid the catastrophe that was about to happen to their star system when their sun went supernova by using a device called the Atavachron, which allowed them to transport themselves, their entire civilization, into their own civilization's past. The star went supernova, and the system has been left pretty much alone ever since. 100 years later, enter Admiral Barner Stoker, who has been asking the Navis crew to fly around various places.
Asking is a very loose term.
Well, ordering. Let's go with ordering. The crew of the Navis to investigate civilization she believes has had contact with some kind of ancient alien culture that appears to enjoy the frequent use of five-sided monoliths, and apparently had command of rather powerful technology in their time. And Admiral Stoker believed that the Sarpedons may have inherited their time travel technology, perhaps from this ancient civilization. And she might be very well onto things, because amidst the devastation and ruin of the Beta Niobe system, you did indeed find a quartet of monoliths, all of them five-sided, and when Admiral Stoker asked for the away team investigating them to feed power into them, they did indeed activate the monoliths and an archway that apparently used to be the Atavachron, or more likely the Sarpedons repurposed whatever was there before to create their Atavachron. And yes, the arch was activated, and summarily, a spatial rift was opened within the Beta Niobe neutron star, which has caused our current calamity. So let's throw us quickly back to the situation as we found ourselves. If we just wait for this to load. Here we are.
However,
So,
when we last spoke to her, Admiral Stoker was quietly confident.
yeah. So we
You
have.
can get a taser to help you make that kind of decision.
So
What?
we basically had the Beta Niobe system with the 4 different monoliths activated and all poured power into the arch, which itself then opened up some kind of energy beam that projected at the Beta Niobe star, opening up some kind of spatial rift. The away team just about managed to get their runabout close enough to the Navis. The Navis itself having to come in close in order to transport the away team aboard. But this, of course, now means that the Navis has been caught in the now expanding gravity pull of the rift. But that's not the only issue at present that the crew of the Navis are facing, because last week we had the crew who remained on the Navis trying to track down and apprehend an intruder, who I failed miserably to keep secret the the gender of, which led everyone to very correctly identify who it actually was. So there we go. So all GMs who are watching this, yeah, me, big mistake, me silly. do better than I did. But you did manage to apprehend the intruder and unmask them. See, now I get it right, the gender-neutral pronoun. If indeed pronoun's even the word. Anyway. An old adversary, or as Sean Connery would say, adversary, in the form of the former Councillor Tannenbaum. What was that, sorry?
It's an anniversary.
The anniversary of your adversary.
This is just going to be a long night of puns again. Shall we leave it where it is?
I believe we have some surveillance footage of that moment where Andrews took down the intruder.
And for those wondering why I'm not panning to that, it's because you guys can't see the Discord channel that these guys are currently throwing visual puns at each other through.
Unless you were a big fan of the Candyman from Doctor Who back in the 80s, you wouldn't get it even if you could see it.
So, at last blush, we had the away team in the runabout, which was being driven by Cavall and hadn't crashed. So we have broken that particular.
The flow of time and reality cannot defeat Fazanan. He's far more powerful than them.
So, yes, the runabout managed to make it successfully within transporter range of the Navis. So the runabout crew are now back aboard the ship, which means if we quickly boost ourselves back to the bridge, that means that Natala's back, Edwards is back, Cavall is back. For the purposes of displaying them on the bridge, we've got the doc and the chief engineer. But we currently have a problem, because all of the telepaths and empaths aboard the ship are currently incapacitated. Nova and the Bravo quintuplets, just as the spatial rift opened, all of them basically clutched their heads in their hands and screamed aloud until they all passed out.
So what you're telling me is we've been running as fast as we can, pulled the shuttle in, and we've done all this with nobody keeping an eye on the engines because he's out cold.
There's more than one engineer.
I'm pretty sure you guys had the budget, the hiring budget for more than one engineer.
You know how protective he is. He probably locked them all in the brig just so they didn't mess with it.
You will not touch my engine.
Bear mind Davis's last log entry said, engineer's log. They said I couldn't make this ship run by feeding my engineering staff through the solid fuel chute, but I showed them.
They said I was mad. Mad, I tell you.
It's part of the
They were
Vibers
right.
protocol that the only other person that can touch it is brother.
Oh yeah, is Vibers taking down the Vibers protocol at this moment?
Yeah.
He just gathered the soylent minority of the crew and just fed them into the engine.
You know what's worse though is if Vibers is in like a state of panic, his brainwaves aren't going to be the same of he normally are. He's like, deactivate Vibers protocol. Unrecognized brain pattern. I'm sorry, the Vibers protocol will remain active. Stand
Please feed-
down, Vibers protocol.
Please
I'm
feed
sorry,
boys
brain
hearing
pattern
crew
not
in.
recognized. Your anger levels are unusually high, Commander Vibers. Perhaps you need to chill out. Then the Vibers protocol will be deactivated.
Please make an appointment with Councillor Taliban.
We gotta do that now. We gotta have that with a stress alarm. Go to the no longer station councillor's office and wait for 5 minutes.
No, we'll take Vibers to the brig and say, I know we're enemies, but can you actually do some therapy on this guy so that we don't all die?
Yes, I do feel at this point I have to echo the sentiment made by somebody at the end of play last week on Discord. What you imagine the crew of the Navis to be, shot of the end of the original Next Generation Enterprise, what they actually are, the crew of Red Dwarf.
Yeah, that's fairly accurate.
Yep.
So, for the purposes of Sean not
Bertram's
having to
great.
sit around and twiddle his thumbs, essentially the original bridge staff, more or less, can now get back to their stations. Hence why Edwards, Natala, the chief engineer, and the chief medical officer are back in their posts. But of course, we are down an operations officer because Nova is the operations officer, and she's currently suffering from whatever the heck happened to the telepaths and empaths. So, for the purposes of allowing you to actually, take part, Sean, I mean, you can take over whichever secondary characters you wish at whatever point.
I guess since he's on my station anyway, I'll take Litude.
Yeah, I mean, whenever there's a call for somebody, I mean, you can flip between Litude and Natala and whatever, we'll... Call me Nova Litude. This is the downside of having publicly
Nova
owned
Litude.
tokens.
You love it.
Wow. Hopefully they do too.
Well, imagine we're entertaining, else it would have switched off by now.
Let's have a quick look at the
Nothing
numbers.
else
Ooh.
They did.
Just crack open the booze to make it more interesting if you really want.
Anyway,
No.
You
so
might make it
priority.
more interesting. We'll just sit there and just stare as the heavy shoes come about. Mr. Shoe.
dress in a lab coat. Yes, for everyone who doesn't get the in-joke, that's what Nova wears. Even though it's technically not Starfleet protocol, whatever
Hey,
you
the
call
Starfleet
it.
dress is part of the
Dress
Starfleet
code.
skirt was part of the dress code.
It was
The lab
100
coat.
years ago.
Oh,
No,
what
it's
is
this
it?
What are you
generation.
talking about scants?
Yeah,
That's a good point,
Star Trek
actually.
Star Trek always has at least that one person always hanging on the bridge who's not in any sort of regulation uniform.
That's regulation, isn't it?
Yeah,
The
ironically.
dress is the lab coat, isn't it?
Webby did make a good
If
point,
everyone's
though.
in
about,
uniform, the captain has to wear a jacket.
Anyway, to help the host get back on track, I do believe some of you actually had a legitimate plan to science your way out of this one. Well, I just sat back and went, okay.
Engines to full,
Okay,
leg
there
up.
we are. Yes, Webby quite rightly brought up the picture of the first episode of the Next Generation, where it had even the male members of the crew wearing that kind of short
They're called
skirt-like
scants.
uniform. So
That's what they were called.
we will.
I always remember it because it sounds like they could be a brand of crisps.
What? I'm just gonna eat some scant crisps. It's like you wouldn't eat a scant crisp. It's just...
There wouldn't be that many to the packet either.
No.
Because scant. Okay, yeah. I'm just going to be over here.
You over here dragging us back to the imminent death in that we're all joking around.
Right, so let me change it from night shift to day shift, because, stuff going on. Right, so before we get actually stuck into this, are there any points that I forgot to bring up? Any questions that need to be asked before we jump straight into resolving the situation as we were found ourselves at the last episode? Or the last session, I should say.
No, but I've actually just had a legitimate idea to help potentially one member of crew that's a telepath/empath.
Go on.
Tenenbaum's armor has been to nullify that kind of that kind of field, or at least to be able to be heard by that. Maybe it's got some kind of in there might be able to help at least diffuse some of whatever's
Oh yeah,
hurting them.
because let's now just completely switch off her empathic abilities again.
That went so well last time.
I said one
Think
person.
about
I was
it,
actually
yeah.
more thinking vibers, to be honest.
Vibers isn't affected.
I thought you said it was empaths and telepaths.
Vibers
He's
isn't
Empaths and telepaths, yes, which
I
means
thought he was
Nova.
empathetic
and
with
Brahms.
his own symbiote.
Oh
Ah,
yeah,
sorry.
let's switch off his symbiote. Yeah.
Oh, no,
No, don't
it's,
do that.
it's,
They're not empathic with
Alright,
their
I'm trying to think outside the box, and that was actually something that's legitimately we've actually got our hands on that's shown to be able to at least
Vibers.
affect that. Not
Vibers,
maybe not vibers.
Mr. Edwards has stated, get in the suit.
All right.
Get in it.
Well, no, I get where you're going. Just to answer the
Yes.
question, in case there was any confusion or misconception.
That was me showing my
the-
naivety and that misunderstanding of Trekkie races.
Yeah, exactly. So just for those who do and who don't, yeah, Vibers is a Trill, and the Trill historically have a culture that revolves around the symbionts, these kind of like slug, wormy creatures that can be physically placed inside and bond physically with a host. And it's on Trill, it's a very sacred thing, a very important thing, because there are not as many symbionts as there are just plain old humanoid Trills. So it's a very important part of their culture. So those who are joined are kind of looked up to, but because they are physically joined rather than telepathically, it means that the symbiont inside of, for instance, the chief engineer Vibers here is physically linked to the chief engineer himself. So the whole point and purpose of the security protocol that you guys invented, the Vibers protocol, is that because the symbiont has its own brain patterns, and when the symbiont is linked to the host, it creates a very unique set of brain patterns, because you have two different nervous systems interacting in perfect synchronization, but they are still two separate neural patterns firing between each other. So the security protocol going off of Vibers' brain patterns, because they are very difficult to duplicate, was, again, I will keep mentioning this, a genius idea by you guys. So yes, every chance we get to toot our horn about that, I'm gladly up for. But yes, just to clarify any possible confusion to that point there, the relationship between the symbiont and the host in Trill is entirely physical. There's no telepathy involved. It's literally sharing nerve impulses. Whereas the Betazoid members of the crew, like the Bravo quintuplets and the ops officer Lieutenant Nova, they are actual telepaths and empaths, and so have an extra sensory perception that allows them to sense the minds and or emotions of others. Whew. So, the plan you were thinking of...
Effectively, or at least co-opting it to try and lessen it. I never actually said to completely diffuse it, but it was more to lessen what was overloading them.
Yeah, so it's a plan. It's an option. So, something to keep in mind. Either to action now or to action later, entirely up to you guys. Any more questions, points, suggestions before I throw us into the mix? Yep.
Commander, I think now might be a good time for a slingshot maneuver.
Well, there's either one or two options. There's what I proposed last week doing, or there is we turn the ship around and we floor it and hope that we do get enough momentum to slingshot out the other end.
And hope that we don't do the whole slingshot time travel thing that Star Trek keeps doing.
Nah, it's fine. We're in a temporally active area. What's the worst that could happen?
It's fine, I've got the Andromeda compensator online.
So
It's
you
a
compensate
Herculean
for the
effort,
presence of
but-
Andromeda?
I've always had
Kevin
my suspicions-
Sorbo's series
it's
was
next
a
to
bit...
the Sorbo inhibitor.
Ah! So we are having a go at Sorbo again, okay. I would say sorry, Kevin, but you're not exactly watching this, are you? So... Which is
And if he
further
does
better.
end up watching this, woohoo! We got more.
If you are, thanks. Alright then. So... let's unpause this then and go straight to... let me see... throwing taking us back to Beta Niobe space. So we get some actual ambience get going here. So I'm just going to move the tokens representing characters and this runabout. I'm just going to blank out these guys for a sec. Bring back the ones we probably want to use.
Here as well, by the way. Is she on the bridge or no?
Say again, sorry?
Is Stoker on the bridge?
Stoker is not on the bridge. I was kind of waiting for you guys to tell me where you wanted Stoker.
Imagine sick pay the way she was going.
Break room next to it.
Well, considering we're on the cusp of your relieved of duty.
Yeah, the question is how is she on the journey back to the Navis? Because that would then dictate on where those on the Californian would recommend she goes.
Okay, that's a good point. Let me think about this. Just let me bring in some character tokens here because you might want to use their abilities while we're trying to do funky stuff with the ship. The Doctor's not really needed, but just in case Gareth needs a token on screen so that he can actually see what's going on. Have I forgotten anybody's token? Yes, I have. Okay, let me
Done.
I
grab.
think that's
Done it.
we need the
Done it.
doctor to drive the full solution.
You brought yourself on? Yes, you have. Okay.
Yeah.
Alright then, so, Admiral Stoker at the moment appears to very much be in almost in a happy daydream.
I
But,
recommend that she goes with Dr. Bertram then.
Okay.
Be my vote, but it's up to everyone else.
Does everyone else think she should go to the sickbay?
Yeah.
I'll take it to
I've
sick
got an
bay
air
along with
lock name
Nova
on it.
and
Yep.
all the Bravos.
Doctor, carry everyone. It's just like Bertram, just like got everyone like piled up on his shoulders.
Well,
yeah,
none of
just
the,
pulls out moss and it just
I'm a
carries.
commander in rank now. I can get people to help me with them.
Oh, I
I
thought
like the
you
idea
put
of
them all
commanding
on
moss.
trolleys and you're pulling this train full of
They're just stacked one on top of the other.
It's clearly some kind of moss version of Dr. Octopus.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he just commands moss.
Dr. Mostopus.
What?
Matt,
Oh, dear.
can I use the medical commands to relieve everyone on this ship of command? Because I think they're all going down the loony route.
He just embraces his 1980s cartoon roots and truly becomes Mossman from Masters of the Universe. Just commands the plants around him to drag them down.
Or we could come back into Star Trek.
It's gonna be a slow night tonight, isn't it?
It's fine. Right, so, yes, the Doctor can, of course, take Admiral Stoker, who I'm going to just put right there just for convenience' sake.
Well, we could actually have everyone teleported in, to be honest.
she
That'd make more
seems-
sense if we were doing it seriously.
Stoker seems to be pretty lucid, but it's like she's... It's like she's caught up in like a wave of euphoria almost, and she just seems to be muttering to herself a lot that, you know, I was right. Words to that effect. There were no other Bravos present on the away team, so the only ones that Dr. Bertram has to take to the sickbay via some kind of gurney or to get directly transported to sickbay is going to be Nova, because she's still stuck in her EV suit. The other telepaths, well, if I remember correctly, Lieutenant Bravo, Chief of Security, was busy about to basically drag the unconscious Tannenbaum, the intruder, to the brig. But that was when the big whammy happened, and Bravo himself had to be taken too.
Yeah.
Luckily, you were right outside sickbay when it happened, so he hasn't got far to be
so-
dragged.
So I think the team would have then is the next senior out of that lot of Commander Bob and Philippe to assist.
Bob and Philippe, that's right. So yes, Bob and
But
Philippe.
then now
would
you're
have
back in
taken
the UK, he's lost the E, so he's now just Philip.
time. Philip.
Bob and Phil.
Bob and Phil. He's from West End.
Two characters from East End.
That'd be Grant and Phil.
Well, I wouldn't know.
Just expose you right there.
Everyone knows the Mitchells.
We do. Oh yeah, right. Sorry. Now I know what you're talking about. Right, of course. No, I legitimately forgot because I blanked out that part period of my television viewing history. Back when a lot of things on television failed the fundamental precepts of what makes entertainment. No cyborgs, no ninjas, no dinosaurs, no dragons.
That's like the whole concept of what it needs to be.
I was thinking, if you'd had the chance to design Countdown, it must have been quite a lot different.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I'll have a Pete
Countdown with ninjas. I think it's like Ninja Star to hit. You get the less you hit.
Anywho.
No, it hits blank and a contestant falls over.
So that's Bertram has to have someone help him carry Nova to sickbay, either by transporter or whatever. The rest of you guys from the away team can promptly take a turbo lift back to the bridge or to your command stations. One imagines Vibers is going to engineering. It doesn't take long for you to get back to your stations, and of course the first thing that you're shown when you get to your stations is of course the image of the great big rift in space. And the fact that the Navis is now being drawn inexorably towards it. And that's also not the biggest problem, as the ship rocks from a couple of asteroidal impacts against the ship's hull. I say hull, you guys had the shields up not long ago, so they're going to be pinging off the ship. So, first thing I am going to do is I'm going to move the Navis a little bit closer, and then I am going to see how much damage the shields take. Oh! Right, so you've got resistance of 7 from being a pretty thick ship. That's a lot. I'm going to knock that down somewhat. That's an awful lot of. That's an awful lot of damage right there.
Fire the quantum torpedoes before it's too late.
Actually, that might be valid.
Well, as Lieutenant Fazalan and the others take their actual their stations. In fact, it's probably a point of note that as Caval Fazalan takes his place at the helm controls, the poor ensign who's, you know, just there to replace it whenever Caval goes elsewhere off the bridge for whatever reason, the poor ensign is sweating drops because they're not used to this kind of high stress situation. So is therefore not as adept a pilot as Caval.
It's the glaring in the back of his head, realising that her head is that there's a scratch now on the ship.
Well, the good news is, for the most part, it seems that the shields took most of the brunt of that damage.
In this case, we've got Caval in charge now, and he trained by driving warp-coreless starships through black holes.
Also situations like these that I keep wet wipes around, so I just wipe the seat before sitting down.
There we go, cleaning up. So, first order of business is that the Navis is being drawn towards the aperture in space, but you're also being dragged in along with a lot of planetary debris. Well, what are you going to do? What's the first thing you're going to tackle?
Are we going going to slingshot, or are we going to just try and pull away?
Well, slingshot's more or less that it's going to be the Hail Mary, I suppose. So, we could, do we want to put all our eggs in the risky maneuver and just go for it, or
Jan, you
because
were
once
about
we
to
do
say
the other
something
one,
there?
we cannot commit.
The second problem with the slingshot is we have to go through a bunch of asteroids to do it.
Right.
So, the problem as I see it at the moment is trying to avoid the collisions with the debris in space, or dealing with the fact that you're being drawn towards this massive gravity well. So, you are in the gravity well. That's drawing you in. Gravity well, right, sir? Yeah.
Talkie science types figured something out with the tractor beam, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is we could set the tractor beam to repulse off of the nearest asteroid body that's near to us. Because remember, Newton's first law, Jesus, well, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Check his first law now.
I do have a possible idea for that, though it will need a bit of creative power shuffling.
Uh-huh.
Have you ever heard of the old Orion project, Commander?
Oh, that was the second law.
I'm thinking let's use quantum torpedoes as secondary propulsion.
Yes, that is another thing as well. Is that first of all, rather than let's just dumping is, I think let's transfer as much available power to the engines first. Then we then we open the shuttleway doors, which will give us the additional depressurization spike. Then
Make sure everything's bolted down.
Yeah, then we kind of use the shuttles, like I suggested. Then we can look at using the torpedoes. Because as much as as much as it would help, is that I don't really want us to fire quantum torpedoes at that close proximity that it detonates and we get caught in the shockwave.
Wouldn't the shockwave be even bigger if we ejected one of our cores and shot that with a quantum torpedo?
Yeah, it would be.
You're not injecting my cores, they're mine.
Wait, sorry. There's a little about where exactly are you planning on targeting? Would you fire the torpedo at the anomaly itself?
No, you fire the torpedo
10
close
kilometers outside of our shield.
So basically, you want to like ride the shockwave out, sort of
Yep.
thing. Okay,
And
so
repeat
I was
until we're out of range.
paying attention then.
Okay.
The only problem that is we'll probably be crushed by the asteroids, no matter what angle we go for, apart from the one that drives us closer.
No, because that depends on how much there is between us and the edge of the map.
We are very close to a heck of a lot of asteroids. That'd be hard to dodge all of them.
So, which approach do we want to use first, or do we want to make it a multi-step approach? Do something first, followed by something after, followed by something after that.
I think the multi-step approach. I think the first thing is to transfer all available power to the engines.
Okay, so we're going to want a bit of engineering with some help from ops here to do this.
I potentially thought of something simple and reckless. Why don't we just blow up one of the markers and see if it on the monoliths and see if it interrupts the whole thing in general?
We cause a power surge to the monoliths by adding
Possibly.
power.
Or by removing it, it might destabilize it.
What was that, Sean?
Didn't these ones survive a supernova?
Good point.
True, actually.
Oh no, for once I'm out of momentum.
But would a potential shockwave be able to maybe force it further enough away out of the circuit? Like, literally like the GIF you just posted playing snooker.
Doubtful. Because a supernova explosion is a lot more powerful than a quantum torpedo.
Well, yeah, but no, I'm not saying it left them in the positions that they're in now, but they still would have
were
moved.
they already there when the star went over to begin with? At which point, moving it is going to do nothing. of trying to move them and do nothing, because if they were already there when the star went nova, it means the supernova explosion didn't move.
Do we have any original star charts of the area? Would we be able to overlay it and actually see if these originally were planets where they
Do
were?
you think we've got time to be looking over the star charts from 100 years ago and going, oh yes, let's see if there's asteroids.
Alright, let's put it to the point that you don't. I'm on communications. I have nothing of value apart from ideas to throw. I technically do have that time.
Plus
Okay.
everyone's panicking
You know what?
around
It's
him.
actually buy us some time to work that out. If we actually channel power to the engines to slow down our descent into doom.
It's an option.
That's it. I literally have nothing to
Okay,
contribute
Ops,
unless you can think of
Can I
something
have
for
some
me.
help, please?
Right,
Sure
so I think
Oh,
what we're
oh.
going to end up doing then is Ops
Oh,
is.
that
Whoa,
worked.
blimey!
Control and engineering from engineering, with power systems focus, and I burned a determination.
I noticed
My
that.
ship is not exploding.
Okay, so that's 4 successes already. So I'm going to give you a momentum for that. For throwing additional power into the engines, which is going to cost you a point of power, of course. If you want a bit of extra juice to play with, then it'll be up to Latude, who's currently on operations, to try and find some. Power operation tends to be... and that's usually Nova's purview, so let's see. Scan for weakness, that's sensors. Let's see what internal systems is. Power management is control and engineering, so... Sean, if you can give me a control and engineering check with from Latude. He's got no foci, whatever, to really apply here, so it's going to be
Drain
whatever
the
he
power
can
from
see.
the transporter systems. It's the only system he knows back to front.
Yeah, it's a case of shutting down non-essential systems. Just shut it down. It doesn't quick and dirty.
Quick and dirty will do.
Non-essential.
So, yeah, so Latude is able to reroute some extra power from various different... And let's face it, Latude is the kind of person who would just take the power without notifying the departments that they were going to get power taken from them anyway.
Life support.
I don't think Latude would go that far.
It's technically
There you
not
go.
the most important system.
Sick bay, running on internal batteries.
So if we consider that there might be excess mass that we can inject, that would help.
Ship is drifting closer. So that's extra
I do know
power
a
to
couple
the
hundred kilos
engines.
that you can inject.
So, you've shunted additional power to the engines. And Latude was able to free up some extra just to give it a bit of shunt. So now it's going to be a case of using it to, I guess you want to stop your momentum of being dragged into the hole. So that kind of speaks to a helmsman's job. So that's going to be Caval. So you can either do a control and con, or daring and con. Control is his forte, so we'll allow that. We'll allow control plus con. The ship, of course, can and should assist. That's going to be engines and con for whoever. So Gareth, you're not doing a lot at the moment because you're the chief engineer and the chief medical officer. So the chief medical officer doesn't have an awful lot to do at this point in time. So if you
knew
could
we
be the ship.
promoted Bertram to commander for a reason.
No successes from the ship. Okay, so it's all down to Thazanan to see if you can at least engage the engines in such a way to reposition the ship to stop your momentum from dragging the ship towards the thing.
Speaking of momentum, I'm gonna use a point of momentum.
Okay. Everyone alright with that?
Yep.
Cool. 3 successes, which is pretty much on the money, as Caval basically swings the ship around so that the engines are pointing towards the gravity well and engages the engines. The whole ship starts to shake as it fights the gravity. So at this point, I am going to. Let's see, we just got that. So Cavall manages to put it in such a place that he managed to stop the ship's forward momentum, but now we have the problem of incoming asteroids. So I am going to ask somebody to be Natala, just so that you can see whether or not you manage to notice the incoming planetary debris in time. So, who hasn't had a chance? Webby, you haven't had a chance to do any rolling yet. Let's let you get in charge of Natala. This is going to be control plus science, aided by the ship's sensors. Obviously, yes, Natala's sensor-based focuses.
We spend the momentum. Should it be a 1 now, by the way?
It should be 1, so I've just corrected that, yes. Gareth, can I get you to once again be the Navis? The Navis is going to assist Natala with sensors and science.
Science, sensors.
One success, 4 successes overall. You got 2 over what you needed. So Natala manages to recognize an incoming proximity alert that suggests a very, very large piece of asteroidal debris is heading right towards you guys. So you now have a bit of leeway with warning, so it's going to be once again down to Cavall and the ship to now use.
Only we had a tactical one.
Or you could try and shoot it if you want. So yes, obviously steering the ship out of the way whilst it's also fighting the gravitational pull is going to be difficult. But this is one of Cavall's strengths as a character, because he's able to reduce the difficulty of such things down. So you can either have Cavall try and maneuver, or you can maybe try and shoot it, or you can do a combination of both. Maybe having the tactical officer let loose a couple of shots to break up the incoming asteroid so that its size is smaller, which might help.
How confident are you feeling at your flying, Lieutenant?
Overconfident?
Don't worry, your life's just depending on it.
That's fine. You said he's overconfident. Would it be? I don't know. Andrews is still technically the best tactical officer. No, I'd be in the command seat at this point. So yeah, it would be our friendly neighbourhood's Direxia.
Oh, guys, Riz, you're actually acting
I can
captain
get
now,
hold
aren't
of
you?
her as well to bring her into the map.
Yes, because our commanding officer is currently sat in the med bay going.
So let's see. Did we want to do the combination of both that I suggested?
I think keep the weapons as a backup.
Okay. In that case, I am going to ask again for a control plus con off of Lieutenant Fazanan, aided by the ship's engines and con. I am going to make this difficulty. No, it was originally going to be 4, but Cavall drops it down to 3. Because you are
Spend the
fighting the
momentum
gravitation.
again.
What was that again, sorry?
I'll spend the momentum again.
Okay.
I think we need it.
Can we have Natala assisting as well? Start plotting the potential route of intercept on and shoot.
By the way,
Okay.
do you, given that we're also slightly run out, do you want me to burn determination to add some points back to motivation and momentum?
Also an option.
Up to you.
If we're going to be using them, I'm more than willing to do it, so I always feel this to the group.
It sounds like a good idea, and it uses one of your character's strengths, talents. So
So, put them on determination, 3 momentum, get 3
here we
momentum.
go then. Wicked. So Edwards' youthful enthusiasm.
Rollers, Natala this time. Alex?
And then, what do I need?
Let's see. Natala is basically aiding, giving a possible trajectory to escape, best possible trajectory to escape to Caval. Not that he probably needs it. So that's
Will it
going
be
to
insight plus science?
Yeah, let's go with that. None of Natala's foci really apply here, so it'll be a flat roll with 1 dice to assist. So go for it. 5 successes because, of course.
First roll was almost the usual.
So you got 6 successes in total, so you ended up gaining 3 momentum anyway.
If Caval's there, we're like...
Right, so basically, as Caval swings around the ship to try and put the engines facing the aperture in space. Aperture? Is that the right word? I'll go with it for now. Sounds
I'll go
fun.
with rift.
Yeah, rift. Spatial rift. Natala gives the proximity alarm that there is an incoming large piece of asteroidal debris being drawn towards you, so the ship strains against the maneuver, but with help from Natala, who plots a best possible course to avoid it, using his knowledge of the ship and its maneuverability. Caval manages to expertly pilot the ship out of the path of the incoming asteroid with feet to spare. And the massive piece of debris does whoosh past without striking the ship.
Feeling with these rolls, the Caval is just sort of like casually with one hand guiding the ship and going, it's just an imploding neutron star. Why is everyone worried?
Imagine just pulling out a steering wheel, plugging it in, and just spinning it and stopping it on the right direction.
No, it's the joystick. Is it Nemesis?
No, the one before it, Insurrection.
Yeah, that's the one.
This is while I'm having coffee.
With one hand, you know. He's not even looking at the controls, he's just doing it all by touch. And there's the secondary helmsman standing off to one side, just dreamily looking on.
One day I will be as good as him. If I study hard enough at school.
Flight school.
Never make a player character.
What was that, Webby?
So, his little ones refusing to go to sleep.
Ah. Well, so that solves your immediate problem. So the ship at the moment is kind of stopped in space, and for the most part now, the larger bits of asteroidal debris have gone past you. So it's now mostly the smaller pieces that were on the outlying parts of the system being drawn in. So you're clear of immediate obstacles. So I'm just going to tone this down a little bit. So that's the immediate danger out of the way. We still have the problem of the fact that there is this aperture. And you're kind of stuck in space at the moment. Now, what I will say is that the maneuver that Caval just did take power out, and fibers, since you are chief engineering and have got your eye on the power output, the engines are thrumming quite rapidly at the moment. It's taking power to maintain the current position, so you are going to be running out of power eventually unless you guys come up with a potential way to deal with this situation. I'm just going to shift momentarily to sickbay. So let me quickly grab.
Of course, I'll throw the energy-eating moss into the aperture. That'll solve it.
I almost suggested that as a joke. to be honest.
Right, so
That's a joke.
let's... actually, there is already a token of Bertram. He's by here. Let's move him in. We've got an upside-down Nova on a bio bed. We're going to have Nurse Bravo on a bio bed because Nurse Bravo is unconscious. Andrews is on the bridge. Natik and the others are going to have escorted Tannenbaum to the brig, so they're not there anymore. What up? So, yeah, we've got another Bravo from security, and just assume that the other Bravos are also somewhere else in sickbay, or are about to be brought in. Because certainly Chief Engineer Bravo will be on the way as well. Oh look, he's magically there. Pop! Well done. So, Doctor. If you want to try and diagnose the issue at hand here, it's going to be insight and medicine, I do suppose, with focus on biology will be fine. You can get aided by the ship for this, so whoever wants to be the ship, any volunteers?
I would be, but I've got to be.
I'll do it. But I warn you, I've already got close to rolling. Where is it? It's Navis and crew ships.
Navis and crew ships. So obviously the bio bed is doing the.
So what do you say? Is it science plus what?
So it's going to be the ship's sensors plus medicine to aid this for the Doctor. 1 dice. No successes. Okay.
Oh, that's just one off.
Why can't your brain be simpler?
So basically,
maybe we should vivisect it to find out.
So, yeah, the Doctor and his nursing staff get the afflicted onto bio beds. Bertram doesn't have time to even get out of his EVA suit. So, is still wearing his spacesuit. He can obviously take the helmet off, or have it retract back into the suit. But a quick scan using the bio bed. It's not immediately obvious why the Betazoids are all unconscious. I mean, they stopped screaming and just fell unconscious, so it's anybody's ball game at this point.
Can I sort of like use any sort of sensors to try and detect sort of like mental or psionic interference that might be causing them to go to basically overload their senses and essentially cause them to shut down out of sensory overload?
Okay, that sounds like that might very well be.
Could you
sounds
potentially
go on?
Use Stoker as a baseline as well, because she's apparently hearing voices?
Possibly.
That's a good point. Actually, Stoker should be in sickbay as well. Let me grab her. Quickly go to another map. Grab Stoker. Let's go back to sickbay. Let's put Stoker on here.
Actually, you're looking for like scanning brainwaves, looking for any kind of anomalies that they're all suffering from.
Okay, so what do you want to do first?
Okay, first up, see if I can detect any sign of telepathic, empathic, or other psionic activity in the environment.
In the environment, okay, so
yeah,
that would be basically asking the computer.
Yeah.
Computer scan for. So that would be another. I'm gonna allow you to go with reason and medicine check on that, and it's going to be aided once again by the ship. Sean, I don't know if you want to take a turn as the Navis. That's going to be sensors plus medicine for the Navis.
Am I still able to use biology as a thing, or is this moved away from
since you're
that?
looking for interference, something interfering with their brain patterns, essentially. So yeah.
And since we got 6 momentum, people are right if I use a point of momentum.
Yeah. Burn it.
Okay.
If only we had Vulcan during the experiment.
I said my determination didn't deteriorate to save your sins. You do not to use it.
3 successes. Okay, that's good. You get a momentum back for that.
Yay!
There is no evidence of a psionic signal that sensors can currently detect that is actively interfering with their brains. If you want more information than that, then you have to spend a momentum to obtain more information.
Okay, so next up, I want to plant the. You said Stoker's kind of like euphoric but lucid and hasn't passed out.
Yeah.
And she's muttering about, I'm right. I think I remember her saying something like, I hear you. At the end of last session. So I want to actually, thank you. I want to see if I could put one of those flashy monitor neck fins that, frankly, we've been giving out like candy to half the people now onto her and try and
monitor, yes.
Well, if you want to use the technical term, like we as Starfleet probably should be doing, then yes. So to be honest, probably should be using those on Stoker and all of the Betazoids as well.
I think you'll find the machine that goes bing.
Well, that's the
expensive machine in the hospital.
And while they're on and taking data, I also want to see if Stoker, ask Stoker, like, are you hearing someone? Who are you hearing? What's being said? What are you feeling?
When you ask her that question, Stoker turns to you. Her happy veneer drops, and she has a bit of a questioning look at you. Is it? What? You mean you didn't hear it either? You didn't hear it?
No, but about that time, all of our Betazoids just screamed in agony and went down. It's possible you're sensitive in a way that I'm not, but they were more sensitive in it, whatever it was, overloaded. What was it you heard?
She seems to consider her answer for a while. I say a while, a couple of beats. It was less a voice, it was more a presence. And I felt such affirmation. I can't tell you. Everything that I've been working towards is true, and now we have proof of it. There's actually someone or something out there communicating with us. Are you sure you didn't hear anything or feel anything yourself, Doctor?
I'm afraid not.
Maybe it's because I've been paying attention to them. I mean, the Betazoids make sense. This is a great moment. This is vindication. It's also a cause for concern. Because that means that those who have been actively trying to stop us are actively trying to stop us communicating with whoever they or it is, are, whatever. Do we know the status of the ship, Doctor?
Or Webby for that matter. Have I been updated while I've been working on this, or if not, Bertram can actually request an update from someone?
Probably not. You've gone straight to sick bay. You're aware that there's a situation ongoing on the vessel.
Okay.
Guess you asked goodbye. We're all gonna die.
Well, as I said, the ship has been lurching. The computer, what's the current state of the Navis?
The Navis is currently trapped stationary within the gravity well of the aperture.
Her position is sideways.
Sorry, trapped. Are we in danger of falling into the aperture?
Current engine output has equaled that of the gravitational pull of the aperture. Estimated time of power remaining to maintain this position, 1 hour and 2 seconds.
Look back at the Admiral and says, looks like we're stable, but have a time limit.
I take it Commander Andrews is on the bridge.
I've heard nothing to say he's been injured, so I imagine he would take commands. She's taken command, given that she, other than yourself, she's the most senior person on the Beta Niobe, so
It would be improper for me to interfere with an ongoing situation by reintroducing myself at this late stage. I'll allow Andrews to handle it as only she can.
Gareth, now this is where you turn around and slap down the medical requirement. It's like, ha! You can't return anyway. Da 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 da. Lay off the smackdown.
I mean, given that Stoker has just specifically said she doesn't think it's the right moment to interfere, I don't really think there's any point in me trying to slap that down now.
Totally, it's just completely destroy her in the first.
Can I just check? No, I haven't signed off, so you can still hear me, yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just had a notification from the Foundry that it's lost connection to server, so hang on, let me have a quick check.
Yeah, you did. You did just drop out and drop back in.
Cool. I'm just going to quickly roll a check with I'm going to use Bertram just to make sure that it goes through. Yeah, I got dice. And that went through. Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
One success at reconnecting.
50% of the time, it connects every time.
So, in the meantime, let's put ourselves down to... Let me see. Where's appropriate? I think... Let's go to main engineering, but of course, once again, we've got to get rid of these guys. And we're going to need fibers. Right, so Bravo engineer is no longer there. Let's go to the bridge, nab of fibers, and put him where he should be, which is in main engineering. Pop. Alright, so, yeah, as soon as Vibers arrives back in main engineering, he gets the story from one of his junior engineers that Lieutenant Bravo was monitoring everything, as he usually does while Vibers is away. And then, of course, the ship rocked, and then Vipers let out a... Bravo let out a scream and fell unconscious and has since been transported off to sickbay. But there is a consistent power drain now as the warp engines are basically fighting to maintain your current position.
Okay, right. Keep those power systems moving. We may have to try and tune up the secondary core a bit more. Not very stable, but we might have to get a bit more power out of it.
So,
Fibers to bridge.
Yep. Off you go then.
How long do you think you're gonna need this power? Because we can't hold this too much longer.
I assume that Natala would answer to say that at present we are not making progress, so we need something bigger. Something where we need either more power or something else.
Commander, I've got two options I can think of off the top of my head. One is let's try and set up a warp bubble without engaging the engines. For that. That might get us out of the gravitational field enough to get some movement, but that's going to use up a lot of our power. We might not have much extra. Or you're going to have to come up with something else for getting us a bit more thrust.
Can I get from Vibers, and let me think, a reason plus engineering check, please, and of course your focus in power systems. Well, and what else has he got? Warp field dynamics, that'll count as well. One success? Okay. Now this is Matt's tenuous grasp of science here, but if I get this wrong, feel free to speak up.
Technobabble, sound convincing, it's fine.
What was that, sorry?
Technobabble, sound convincing, it's fine.
So, The way a warp field, a warp bubble works, as far as I am aware, is that it distorts space around it so that the ship's mass is decreased, allowing it to be propelled at faster than light speeds. So the current warp bubble that you have surrounding the ship has reduced the ship's mass.
Technically, we're not out.
At the moment, we don't have one because we're on full impulse and burn the engines
point.
as fast as we can to
Yeah.
close the
You're on
door
impulse,
so we
aren't
can
you? So-
actually engage warp and jump.
So, go on, sorry.
I think technically a warp field doesn't change the mass, it just shortens the distance in front of the ship
Yeah, it
and
crushes-
elevates the distance behind.
Yeah, it crushes the space in front of the vessel and expands it behind
Well,
it.
Okay.
Doing that without having a full warp field up might give us some extra ability to get through space, even though we can't maintain a warp field this
Yeah.
close.
It would crush the space in front of us, so there's less distance for us to get out. It's just going to cause a hell of a lot of. We might actually create another tear in space, but at this moment in time, the neutron is going to pretty much tear a majority of that away anyway.
Okay, so it sounds like you have the beginnings of
I'm
a...
pitching a plan from a whole Next Generation episode.
Well, they technically did it on DS9 as well when they lowered the gravitational constant of DS9 itself, so they could move it to get from the wormhole.
Yeah. So if you can lower the amount of gravitational pull that is currently being exerted on the ship, you might be able to find a way to escape. Now,
Eject all unnecessary personnel.
you're not playing Latude yet, yeah. Although you could be as of right now if you really wish. As I shunt us briefly back to the bridge, as I would like Natala to once again give me a control plus science with focus on sensors, aided by the Navis. Who hasn't had a go at rolling something in a while?
So at the minute, Alex is on 2 dice, I'm on 2, and Sean is on. No, Sean's on 1, I think.
So it sounds like Sean's turn. So Sean, if you could aid the Lieutenant Natala sensor check with using the Navis's sensors and science, please. I'm going to ask this to be a difficulty 3 check. So that's 1 already down, so that Natala has 2 successes to make up. So whoever's being Natala, who else hasn't had a chance of rolling in a while?
I say Alex is at 2, goes at 2 dice, I'm at 2. So Alex, go for it.
Screen's gone funny.
No,
No,
you
literally, I
Webby.
think my things crashed. Give me a sec.
So what we're doing, sorry.
So Natala, give me a
Oh, I'm back.
control plus science
Control science.
to use the sensors. to...
Quantum mechanics. Technically, we are starting to go into quantum realm.
I haven't hit string theory yet.
We
Go
don't
on.
talk about string theory.
Go on then, yeah,
String
I'll
theory
allow
does
it.
not exist anymore. It's been disproven by the Higgs. Thank you very much. Spend a momentum, guys. Are you happy with that?
Yep.
Yeah, but it's the Higgs boson in Star Trek.
Ah.
Yes.
Technically,
if
we
you
should have
actually-
had the Third World War by now, shouldn't we?
Yes, we are entering Third World War territory. I think, yeah, it should have finished by now. 2019, I think, the Third World War ends.
Something like that.
So 3 dice, using foci. I'll roll.
4 successes, 2 over what you needed. Awesome. Right, Natala notices a strange reading coming from the aperture. At which point she runs sensors. She runs her gaze over the sensor console, and she realizes there is the presence of a warp field of a sort on the other side of the aperture. But the signature is really, really strange. There's definitely a warp field effect on the other side of the aperture that the sensors are reading, but it's almost like she's able to get a real good idea of what could be causing it. But there definitely appears to be a warp field going on the other side of the aperture. So, with 5 successes, do you get any more than that? Yes.
Do we actually remember what happened at the very start of the episode?
Yes. You all received it as kind of like a dream. So, for those who weren't here, the episode actually began with the Navis flying into, or being dragged into, an aperture in space, a tear in space, and just as they were about to collide with the event horizon, I think that's the right term, another ship came out of the tear in space, and both ships collided, and there was a bright flash, and everything started from the actual start of the episode. So everyone had that as like a hazy dream.
I think we should avoid that.
Well, yes. With 5 successes on that sensors check, what I will also add as a freebie for you is that there appears to be not only asteroidal debris on the other side of the aperture, which is the number of which is decreasing by the moment, but there also appears to be readings that would suggest a solid object like a ship on the other side of the aperture. And what you're noticing with the aperture itself at the moment is there are a lot of miniatured and slightly larger sized explosions going on at the point of the tear itself. Lots of small ones and medium-sized ones all going off. They don't last very long, but there's lots of individual flashes and bangs going on in space right at the mouth of the aperture. So, anything you'd like to do?
So keep scanning the aperture, see if I identify what other power surge is going on. Just get as much information as possible, I suppose.
Okay.
We're not going anywhere at this current point in time, so we might try to analyse.
I would much rather us not waste the time of looking at it and actually try and escape. Would be my thoughts. Because the longer we stay in here, the harder it's going to be to break the gravitational well, because we'll be losing power.
That's a good
We
point.
shoot a quantum torpedo into it and see what happens.
Can we fire a class 1 probe first?
You said you don't want to have time by looking, and you just said, let's send the probe to look.
No, the sensor
Well,
will
hopefully
just
it'll
fire.
crash into the probe and save us.
Yeah, no, the probe will just
Actually, that's
spurt
a
out data.
Ooh, that's possible.
What was your idea, Davis?
So that warp field we're detecting through the other side. Do we know if it's ours?
You would have to do a scan of it to determine that. And
We know our own warp frequency. I can look it up.
But that does go back to what Alex said moments ago of doing extra scanning to determine what it is, which was almost countermanded there by Commander Andrews, who would rather try and escape. So,
If the majority think that it's a worthwhile idea, she'll go for it. It's just her current opinion is the safety of the entire crew. And yes, the data is interesting, but
It's
it
more
doesn't-
using data to get us away, because we're currently stuck at a balancing act.
Yeah,
If
which is why
Andrews
you
looks
push
at
more
that,
power,
sorry.
or do-
if Edwards looks at that for more detail, while the rest of us look at what else can we do to get more power, get out of here, then we're not losing time.
Theoretically, I could have been doing that from the start. I said literally, Edwards has been doing nothing while you guys have been doing this because there's nothing for him to do.
Okay, so so we could, if what I'm gathering from the situation is we could have some guys busy themselves with trying to find out what's going on while others focus on trying to find a way of getting the ship free.
Basically getting information to help feed back into getting us free.
We split the party.
Split the research at the very least. So this then comes down to the obvious question of who's doing what.
I'd say probably Natala on sensors. Edwards would aid unless Natala's needed for the getting out of the escape plan, effectively.
And getting out would definitely suggest the helmsman and the chief engineer. So that does leave Lechuda's operations to assist with either.
Commander's call, what would she prefer the additional man on?
Or indeed, Sean, if you've got an idea where you think Lechuda would lie on the thing, you know, discover more about the problem or try and find a way out of the problem.
I think Lechuda's more about saving his own hide, so I guess...
Yeah, okay, I can go with that. So, I would propose then that maybe Andrews, Thazanan, Lechuda, and Vibers potentially concentrate on trying to find a means of at least improving your current situation, whereas Edwards and Natala maybe have a look at the data they've got to see if that'll help anything. So I am going to put Natala and Edwards to one side for a moment, and I'm just going to quickly zip back to sickbay to give the rest of you guys, excuse me, scratch my nose, to give the other guys, actually give both teams a chance to have a think about what they might want to do. So I'm going to quickly shunt us to sickbay so that we can continue Dr. Bertram's investigation into the comatose betazoids, giving everyone else a chance to have a think. So, the doc. Anything Dr. Bertram would like to try? Gareth?
Hello?
Just about hear you then. Could you repeat that?
No, I was just saying I resisted the urge to say Vivisect Nova.
All right.
Okay.
The sound of a power tool starting up.
He has
Okay.
technology, he can rebuild it.
I would have spent too much money.
You could have it declared dead and make it be a post-mortem examination.
Ooh, the 25 cents man.
Go on, Gareth. Sorry.
Okay. Well, what I'm thinking is, while and I can't remember what they're called, so I'm going to call them the neck fins, are gathering data. I want to do a scan. We'll start on Nova. She's in the central barrel bed of her physical brain to see if there's any damage or... Nova, get back on the bio bed. You're unconscious.
See how smooth her brain is.
Well, I was going to say if there's any physical damage to her brain, or if there's any sort of like scrambling or repression or overstimulation of certain areas or neural pathways, anything like that.
Okay. This is going to require the sensors and medicine check from the ship.
Yep.
So whoever wants to be the ship, who hasn't had a chance to roll in some time. Going once. Going twice.
Alex is still at
Alex.
time. Yes.
So Alex, if you can be the Navis, we're going to need a sensors and medicine check. To go with Bertram's... At this point you're going with your gut really, aren't you? So this might be insight and medicine.
Okay.
Let's see what we get. Difficulty 2, so we only need one more success for Bertram.
Gosh darn it!
Wow.
What
You
was with my
can
rolls?
always succeed at cost.
Go
I
on.
think, yeah, I'll just put the cost
You-
onto Nova.
You can also re-roll by using a determination. If it's appropriate.
I've kind of already rolled, so
Succeed at cost. It's only no.
Succeed at cost. Alright.
Yep.
Let me think. Actually, I'll just add that to threat. For now, until I can think of a better use. Okay. Alright then. So, you do manage to eventually get a scan of Nova. What happens is you scan her brain and you find that she is in... Her brain waves have flattened down to that point where someone in a coma, you know, their brain waves go basically next to nothing. There's enough activity going on that you know, she doesn't. Her heart's still pumping and her lungs are still breathing. So that's just, you know, the basic functions are currently on. The brain scan suggests pretty much what you theorized or hypothesized, I should say, was was the case, which is she suffered some kind of massive shock, which has essentially overloaded the psionic part of her brain, which is then fed back to the rest of her nervous system and pretty much knocked her out, comatose.
right.
The good news is that the damage is not lasting. It's more like it's more like what you posited it was, like a sensory overload. So the betazoids obviously had the psionic portions of their brains cope with too much at one time, and it basically their brains shut themselves down to protect their higher functions.
Right.
So it's up to you whether or not you think it's safe to bring them back around, or if you want to wait until the aperture closes or you're a safe distance away from the aperture.
Can
Whatever.
I
There are options.
ask Stoker if she's still feeling the whatever it is trying to communicate as she described earlier?
She tilts her head to one side and her eyes move about as if she's listening for something. But she slowly nods. I can definitely sense the presence still. Yes. I can confirm.
Okay. Thank you, Admiral. Which suggests that it may not necessarily be safe to immediately bring any of them around. Is there any medical equipment we can produce that is designed to kind of like, if not completely eliminate, then at least sort of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Reduce the capacity of them to sense empathic and telepathic abilities.
There is a
Yeah.
drug that some betazoids are known to use that do suppress the betazoid ability to sense emotions or thoughts. It's
Right.
not common, but it has been known. In fact, I will give you this one for free. Since you are a chief medical officer operating off of Narendra Station, you are aware that the chief civilian science officer, Dr. Taliaferro, she is herself a betazoid, but she takes regular doses of this drug. I forget what it's called off the top of my head, but she does that deliberately to suppress her own betazoid psionic abilities.
Are there any downsides to the drug?
You're not aware of any long-lasting effects, but it tends to be let me put it this way: you've witnessed for yourself, or have read the reports of how well or how badly Nova copes with the loss of her psionic abilities.
Right.
So it's possible to suppress the betazoid ability to sense thoughts and emotions, yes. How well they're going to cope with it becomes a matter of psychology.
Right. Well, Nova's already complained about it before. Didn't she mention that she'd had like some kind of overload recently, in the last few hours, that had caused her issues?
Yes, she did. Whether she actually spoke about it is another matter entirely. Practicing her ability to break through other people's mental defenses.
Yeah, in that case, it's probably not a good idea to mess around with that a second time in the same day.
Yes, there's potential for things to go wrong there.
Depends how closely and how much you revere that Hippocratic Oath, I suppose.
Yes, so some of us actually paid attention in school and got these things.
Some of us just changed the wording when we said it. It says hypocritical.
Right, so with that in mind, I'm going to leave the doc there to consider his medical quandary.
Yeah.
As I...
He's changed his oath to be moss.
Hypnotic oath.
As I zip us back to the bridge. So, first things first, the guys who were looking to try and have a look at the data to see what they could discover. So, Natala and Edwards, if I remember correctly?
Yes.
So, again, this can be aided by the ship, so Sean, I don't know if you want to be, or Webby, if you want to be the ship aiding them in this. Who hasn't had a good go yet?
Or someone has to be Natala anyway, so
That's a
I
good
think
point.
Natala's leading. As Natala will be leading, she's got the speciality in sensors, so she knows how to fine-tune them.
Okay, so Webby, you can be Natala. Sean, if you can be the Navis. Obviously, Alex, you can be Edwards. Edwards, what have you got that could aid you here?
Ancient technologies. That's what we're
I'm going to
focusing on.
actually go with metallurgy as your focus. Will allow you to aid this particular one. The Navis for Sean, I'm going to ask you to give me sensors and science, please.
For me and Webby, would it be control science or insight science?
For Natala, it's going to be... for Natala, I will allow reason plus science, because Natala has stronger reason. For Edwards, you've got strong reason and strong insight, so I'll let you choose either.
Okay.
Sensor up, Sophia.
Yep, absolutely.
We spend it.
I'm going to make this a difficulty 3 check, so...
Burn it.
So that's 1 already, thanks to the Navis.
We can't burn... take one of Natala's out, because that takes up to 5. Hang on, no, that's fine, isn't it? Yeah.
You can use her one about ask an extra question, can't you?
If you want to, yes.
Well, we've just got 7 successes.
Yes, you do, so you definitely get over and above what you wanted. Alright. So, using the sensors, you scan the other side of the aperture, and you can confirm there is another ship on the opposite side of the aperture. The readings are really confusing at first, because you definitely sense the presence of a warp field, which is confirmed that the warp field is being generated by that other ship. But when you scan the other ship, you are getting readings of anti-deuterium hull and power signatures that are very, very odd. In fact, the power signatures are almost the inverse of your own. And as you are scanning, you notice that there is another scanning beam coming from that ship, scanning you. Webby, you just had a moment there.
It has the inverse. Could it be that it's made up of antimatter? Let's not collide with other ship.
So yes, with that many successes that you generated, it appears that the aperture has managed to open a tear between not only your reality, but also the other reality that is the flip of your own, insofar as it's known as the antimatter universe. And as a historian, Edwards would be able to confirm there are historical records of the original Enterprise and Captain Kirk encountering, in fact even entering, the antimatter universe at one particular point in time.
Question. At the same time we scanned them, did they scan us at the exact same point? Okay, so my next idea is going to go flying out the window.
In fact, the ships, the opposite ship's dimensions are the exact same design and dimensions as your own.
Due to torpedo.
No, because they're going to fire exactly.
Exactly.
So far they've been doing exactly the same as us at the exact same pinpoint as us.
Exactly.
Their torpedo will encounter our torpedo. The resulting shockwave, matter meets antimatter, will blow us free.
Don't bother with torpedo, just fire a probe.
Yeah, that will work too.
Yes, but it's more the point. If they're doing exactly the same thing, either they'll do something that hits us, or they'll hit mid-range.
No, because if we
Yes.
fire, if we
Alex,
fire for the
exactly.
midpoint,
If they
they will
explode
fire at the
mid-range
midpoint.
and there's a big explosion, that might be enough to counteract the oh god, we're getting sucked into this thing.
Yeah, no, but you're worrying about us being in range of the waves to actually do too much damage. What would this do? This is bigger.
Shields. We got shields.
Okay, it's just
Well,
that we were very cautious before. Now we're doing something to make a bigger boom.
Yes, but we're hitting at the center point. It's going to be further away. And technically, quantum torpedoes, from memory, do generate antimatter. I need to
Yeah, it is a miniature matter-antimatter collision that creates the explosive force, but the quantum torpedoes go about generating that extra excessive force by destabilizing space around them, if I remember.
Yeah.
Okay, so as a point of clarification, how far into the aperture is this other ship? Is it mirroring the same distance as us, or is it closer?
At the moment, yes. They're mirroring.
Okay, fair enough.
Shall
I
we
can see the
start
point.
Shall we start off by attempting to open hailing frequencies?
You can indeed.
I can certainly do it. Do I want, Commander, given everything we're knowing how this is starting to do we want to use our own codes to see if they'll actually respond? Or are we just going to broadband
I think
hailing?
just broad spectrum. There's no point
Broad spectrum,
in
that's
trying
it.
to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if they're hailing us, don't answer, otherwise you're going to get that feedback echo loop thing.
Hello.
Hailing open, Commander, what do you wish to say?
So, yes, so what happens is, as you guys start to open hailing frequencies, typically, you notice that they are attempting to open hailing frequencies with you as well. So, when you send a signal to them, you confirm that they receive it, but when you get when you get their signal coming into you, you can pull it up on screen, but the screen is having a horrible time rendering the message, and the sound is coming through with as just basically static. And
Doesn't stop me from recording it all.
it doesn't stop you from recording it, but the
this is for
communication
later if
systems
we
are
survive.
having an awful time trying to interpret what it's getting.
It's more for later project, providing we don't die.
You
So
have to flip something around. If it's like the anti-this.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's just one spins left, one spins right. So if we invert our signal output, it should in theory be. I'm trying to. Oh god, now we're getting onto the quantum level. It's been 10
Science
years.
officer technobabble.
Yeah, it's been 10 years
Roll
since
for
I
it.
did physics.
Yeah, but it's technobabble. It doesn't have to be real. It's fine.
Yes.
hey, I haven't done physics.
I want
since
physics
I
from
failed
the
GCSE, so you know.
I want physics from the physician. Not physician, physicist.
No,
I want
I like
physics
that one.
I want
Physics
science from the
position.
doctor. Yeah, so if we effectively, if we attempt to invert our signal, it may be they might do it the same if we're doing it in time with each other.
Yeah, which would allow you to receive theirs and them to receive yours.
I
Yes.
think we just
They
need to
would be
shift our frequencies by like 180 degrees
Well,
or
I said
something.
Yes.
we just alternate when sending and receiving.
So that sounds like an insight or a reason and science check from both Edwards and Natala, aided by the ships. Let me see.
I was going to say, as the communications officer, I'd request the lead on this one.
Yep.
I'm just wondering. I almost want to say xenolinguistics, or that wouldn't be it. It would be
Ooh, that's a stretch.
no, good point.
This is less linguistics and more the science of communication systems.
This is
Trying
why
to-
I need to get that thing changed
This,
after this.
yeah, and that's fine. That's what milestones can be used for. But the ship
Okay.
can aid with communications and science. So,
So what do you say I need?
Webby and Alex, you can both give me what, insight and science.
Sean's a rod less than I am at the minute.
Well, I was going to say
That-
Sean can be the Navis.
Yeah, Sean,
That's a
Sean, Jan, and Alex are at the lowest point at the minute.
Could
Oh,
I actually
okay,
use
so-
one of my values for this? Seeing is believing.
You want to be the Navis, then you?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, alright, you know, you wouldn't have believed that there was such a thing as an antimatter universe, but you're kind of seeing it for yourself right now, so okay, I can go with that. Jan, then, do you want to be Natala?
Sure.
And aid Edwards with, can be reason and science, and Natala's quantum mechanics can be involved nicely here. Sean, again, if you're alright with being the ship.
I'm using a momentum as well. I want to make sure this works.
Holy Moses! And Sean, if you want to do the Navis with communications and science, please.
Actually, no, we already were on 6, weren't we?
Whew. Wild and above, so you gain the momentum back and then some. So well done. Yes, you managed to basically invert your signal at the quantum level, so that you send a signal that your opposite number can receive and interpret, and it comes as no surprise to any of you that as you do that, they come to the same conclusion and do the same, and you get an incoming hailing frequency notice.
Still recording everything.
Oh yes. At which point,
Come
assuming that of course you say yes to the incoming signal,
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Edwards is like, yeah, well, I'm watching this. I'm bringing-
As soon as Mr. Edwards opens it, it just like Andrew's just gonna close it and be like, Yes, well done, Mr. Latude.
Thanks,
Mr. Latude knows the command structure. Mr. Edwards.
Edwards is like, oh, but science. Natala's there, just patting him on the head, going, later, son, later. So, yes, indeed, there is an incoming hailing signal.
Yes, we would open channel.
Anti-Latude has a stash or beard. Well, when you open communications with your opposite number,
Anti-Latude is Andrews.
you do indeed see a reflection of the bridge on your viewer. So rather than it being a mirror universe as such, and by that I don't mean that everything is flipped to the opposite side, everything is still on the same side that it should be. So you know, the other Andrews doesn't have the bionics on the other side, and that kind of thing. It's still it's still the same as it should be, but obviously the composition of the other universe is different, the opposite. And so you you see yourselves on the other end. At which point, other Commander Andrews nods towards Commander Andrews and goes, "Commander?"
Commander, I assume you and your vessel are in the same situation as ours.
It seems we are, Commander. Am I to also assume correctly that your crew are already working on a way of trying to break your ship free?
Yes, we have tabled several options internally, hence why we've...
You know, Edward is currently wearing the biggest, I can't say the exact phrase, but eating grin.
So it looks like it's Keisha on the comms on their side, not Edward.
Yeah, so effectively is that we have several ideas, hence why we realised that the ship on the opposite side of the aperture was of the exact nature of our own and open communications. We believe potentially that there are two options. I think are currently the ones that are being tabled. Unless anyone else thinks that there's anything else.
Well, if anyone does have any other ideas, now's the time to put them forward. Okay.
I have crazy plans involving warp fields.
Yes, but that technically is one of the plans.
Yeah.
One of the other ones is to point the replicator out the back of the ship and turn it on full.
Propel you forward by the power of milkshake.
Yeah.
So the first plan is to attempt a short warp jump, decreasing the subspace in front of us to such an extent that it allows the escape velocity of the black hole to be exceeded. The second is potentially because your vessel and our vessel are completely oppositely charged. When matter and antimatter collide, it is the only substance that completely transmits matter to energy. Therefore, a quantum torpedo detonation will be a lot larger yield than any normal range weapon. So it may just provide enough momentum for us to escape the aperture.
It should come as no surprise to you, Commander, that we've come up with the same ideas. So, at that particular point, that is when you get an alarm sound as Natala on sensors and Latude on ops, also getting the sensor feed, can confirm that there's all of a sudden sensors are alerting to there are incoming pieces of frozen methane gas heading towards the aperture as they're being drawn in from outside. So they're being drawn by the gravity of the aperture. And there are now very large chunks of ice heading straight towards y'all. And you notice the crew on the other side are getting a similar alert status.
Dodge them, I have to actually ignite them before they hit us.
Watch the 7 rules of dodgeball.
What was that, Sean?
I have dodge.
Use the tractor beam and just throw them over ourselves and use them as additional matter to explode.
Right?
Jan, what was your idea?
No, the rules of dodgeball, sorry.
The rules of dodgeball. Well,
Dodge.
you could
Dip,
combine the two.
Dodge, dip, dive, and dodge.
So, if we jump quickly back to Beta Niobe space, you've now got a ton of frozen debris heading towards the ship. The ship, of course, at this present moment in time is just holding a position. Now, you've got a lot of very large chunks of ice coming in your direction. So, this is going to be obviously needed. Someone's going to need to dodge out the way. Thank you for whoever's putting the the big circles on the map. Thanks for that. So yeah, what was it? Mention of using the tractor beam to maybe try and nudge some of them out of the way. That's certainly an option. Rolling the ship to get it out of the way of the incoming icebergs in space is going to be something that's needed. Or do you want to combine the whole lot into one big assisted roll? What do you want to do? Do you want to try to blow them up? Do you want to... I don't know. What do you
My
want to do? What are
thoughts would be
options?
to do it as an assist. We do both. Because the yeeting the ice balls is going to generate momentum.
Which might nudge the ship forward a teensy weensy bit. Yep. So...
Okay to go with this.
What was that, sorry, Alex?
Is I'm okay to go with this? What if it is better than what I can think of at the moment?
Alright then. So, I would recommend that in all likelihood, Caval's going to be the lead because he's going to need to actively pilot the ship out of the way. Someone is going to need to be the tactical officer in order to get her to target the icebergs coming at you with the tractor beam. Someone else is going to probably need to assist with, it's probably going to be Vibers is probably going to need to assist with shuntings, or Litude in fact, with shunting power to the tractor beam to allow it to nudge these colossal blocks of ice out of the path of the ship as it's trying to avoid them. So the ship itself is going to also assist.
While Litude's doing that, Vibers is going to be patching the runabout power systems directly into the main grid so I can drain them as well.
So, as has been correctly noted before, we're allowed a maximum of 5 dice in total. So if we go with the 2 dice for Caval's helm operation, one dice for one set of dice for the tactical officer using the tractor beam. 1 dice maybe for Vibers patching in the power systems of the runabout. So there's.
I'll do that as a separate action.
I'm going to require it as part of this whole action, I think, because it all contributes to the whole thing.
Actually, that's good because then I can get rerolls.
Okay then. Which
Everyone could have Celine Dion prepped in case everything goes Titanic. No one gets it?
So that leaves the last dice can be contributed to by either Litude doing something funky with the power systems to funnel power, or it can be done by the ship aiding one of these actions, probably Caval's helm action. So
Ship, please.
the ship. Okay, so we're gonna have.
You can, because then I can use the rerolls for it.
Aha. Okay, so we've got Caval's control plus con as the primary. We're gonna have, let me think, Vibers is this is gonna daring. He's kind of doing something really off the cuff here. So I'm gonna say Vibers is gonna do daring and engineering to do the thing with the runabout power. What else did I say? It's always fast off the mark, is Dallas. Oh, we're going to need the tactical officer. So whoever wants to be the tactical officer can do them assisting. That's going to be control and security for them. So Sean, Webby, Gareth, either of you want to be the tactical officer?
Sean's low again on rolls.
Sean, you want to be the tactical officer? Control plus security, 1 dice, and any other focuses?
Not appropriate weapons. system.
Yeah, it's all weapon systems, so she's using the tractor beam, so not really. So let's just go with what we got there. So one success there. We've already got Caval yanking the controls to avoid it. We got Vibers managing to successfully patch power, which leaves the ship. So Webby or Gareth, whoever wants to be the Navis. One of you nominate yourselves.
I'll go as the Navis.
Okay. So that's going to be engines and con for the Navis, I think.
Okay.
And I am going to, let me think. You've already got 1, 2, 3. You've got quite a few successes here. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, but the Navis do.
Yes, it does, because the engineer gets to re-roll that because we were assisted by the ship. So hit the button, Gareth.
Aha!
Sorry.
So basically,
Reroll
press the button that
results.
says reroll results for the Navis. Gareth.
We get a complication now.
No,
It
same
still
as
doesn't
before.
work, but oh well.
Our situation has not improved.
The Navis needs to do better.
Yeah, its computer's kind of on low power though.
Oh, we should have asked them if their ship's called the ship as well. Are you the USS ship?
Right, so this helm maneuver takes one piece of power as extra power is fed through from the runabouts being patched into the grid. And that gives some extra maneuverability to Caval as he yanks at the controls and draws the ship out of the path of one of the larger icebergs as Ensign Oradas uses the tractor beam as that massive piece of ice floats past to latch onto it and give it a bit of extra oomph and also nudge the Navis along as well by generating opposing momentum, if I understand the physics of that.
Yes.
So by flinging that, you're driving it towards the aperture, but the Navis slightly forward. And it's at this point that Natala registers a temporal disruption ahead of the Navis as one of the pieces of frozen stellar gas gets displaced in space and time and comes back at you from the front. Not the big one that you just avoided, but something does in fact come in and strikes the ship, at which point I am rolling dice. Because this was the complication that you got earlier. So, I am going with, that's a lot of dice, so I take off your resistance of that, which leaves me with, ooh, quite a bit. So your shields are battered down by that, as the ship rocks violently, as the shields overload with the massive impact of this big stellar berg. Now, I am going to... Did any of these roll an effect? 2 of them did. Okay. Let me think. So that is going to be... So you had that many points of shields left, minus... so let's go with 6. Oh dear. Right then. So, let me determine at random which parts of the ship are hit. And I get to do this once, twice. I get to do this twice, I think. Maybe even 3 times. So, engines takes a knock. And sensors take a knock. So, there's a breach on engines and a breach on sensors. Let's see what that means. Starship rules, starship damage. So first wing was engines. Whenever the engine system suffers 1 or more breaches, it disrupts the functions temporarily. The ship loses 2 points of power immediately. Oh dear. Further, until the internal systems officer, Leshud, or someone in engineering performs the restore minor action. Hang on a second. Honey, can you turn the light on for me, please? Thank you. It's getting dark in here. Thank you.
Well, we did just get the engines hit.
Exactly. Until someone performs the restore minor action, all tasks assisted by the ship's engines or which has a power requirement increases in difficulty and complication range by 1. And the other system hit was sensors. Whenever sensors suffers one or more breaches, it disrupts those functions temporarily until the sensor operations officer, Natala, again, Latude counts as this too, performs the restore minor action. No task can be attempted which will use or be assisted by the ship's sensors. Further, until that minor action is performed, all attacks made by the ship increase in difficulty by 1. Okay. Communications also suffered a disruption. What happened there? Or did I leave that on from a previous one? I think that must have been left on from a previous one. So I'm going to ignore that. So, the ship takes a horrible impact as the shields are knocked down. In engineering, several consoles go up as the power goes down by a couple of notches. And, of course, the sensors start to glitch. There's a couple of sparks and a fire on the bridge at Natala's console. Thankfully, Natala herself is not injured, but the warning klaxons now sound. So, let's go back to the rupture. So, the situation has improved slightly, but now your power situation is a bit worse for wear. Not only that, but since you were using engines to maintain your current position, well, if the damage to engines isn't repaired soon, you might start losing position and getting drawn back. So, first things first, yeah, probably going to need to do some repairs. So, obviously engineers can actually perform repairs. Also, the damage descriptions I just read out suggest that certain officers at certain bridge locations, or indeed any of those system locations, can perform restore minor actions. So, restore minor actions. What were those again? Combat tasks. Prepare, restore. So, it's a minor action, as it said. So, yeah. So, Sean, since Latude is on ops and Natala's console went kabang, if I can get Latude to perform a, let me see, maybe a control and engineering check to see if he can restore the sensor system to working order. If Edwards or Natala want to aid him with this, that would probably be a good thing.
Natala's probably going to be trying to deal with the sensors issues, so wouldn't it be better aiding her to deal with that?
Yeah, sure. Latude gets 1 success. You need 1 more to successfully repair or restore the sensors to action. So, Edwards, you can use a...
something plus engineering, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so I'd go with reason plus engineering, since you're trying to basically patch computer access back to the sensors and bring the sensors back online. 2 successes, there you go, you get exactly what you needed. So, the sensors took damage, but you are able to both work together to reshunt power to the other sensors, so that the system actually gives some readout again. So, sensors are still damaged, but you've managed to both basically found a workaround for the moment. Similarly, engines-based shenanigans. This is going to be Vibers.
Yep.
And Vibers, whilst in engineering... Sorry, Webby, what was that?
I was probably going to say probably also with Cabal assisting.
Yeah, absolutely, because Cabal is Helm Officer. That makes sense, actually, yeah. So, absolutely. Any of Caval's focuses apply here? What do you think, Jan? Justify me one of Caval's focuses for helping restore engines.
Jan?
That's yeah, I don't really think I have focus at those.
Okay.
Unless through helm operations I can somehow, there's no drag in space, but do something similar to use only maneuvering that optimizes energy use or something.
Okay, I can go with that. That sounds like reasoning to me. So, yeah, so if Caval uses thruster operations to try and stabilize the ship, it'll put a little less strain on the engines for the moment, giving Vibers a bit of extra leeway to work on helping bring the engines back into working order.
My ship is gonna work one way or another. I refuse to let it not work.
So, with that justification, control and con as an assist from Caval with his focus will be fine. Vibers, this is going to be... I'm fine with control, reason, insights can also be used, but control's your highest, so...
Yeah, control and engineering.
Plus, it can be noted that I do think if you spend 2 momentum, you can create the advantage of basically engineering team to bring the difficulty down. So you now have the advantage of, well-oiled machine or whatever you want to call it. Your expertly trained engineering crew, since they are down there with you in engineering, will allow you to do this. So if we can have Jan's assist, what was that? Sorry.
Will any of my focus fly?
You're trying to restore mostly engine power, so. Any of your power systems focuses will work there nicely. Let me see, difficulty was going to be 3, but you brought it down to 2, so...
Let's see, what did we get out of the helm?
1 success from Caval, so that leaves 1 to be made up with from Vibers.
Yep.
4 successes, so you get those momentum back. Easy peasy. So,
my ship going to work.
So basically, you've had to reroute some systems, change the power around to go around the damage. Obviously,
and don't use the showers on deck 5. They're being used for engine coolant.
There you go. Yes, exactly.
Are the sonic showers?
Not anymore.
Oh look, what's this coming out of my shower? Oh, it's used engine coolant.
Hang on, doesn't plasma coolant liquefy organic material on contact?
Dr. Bertram to deck 5.
Dr. Bertram to deck 5.
Bring a mop.
That's why Viber said the showers shouldn't be used, right?
Yeah, exactly. Red alert was sounded mostly, so why someone would feel the need to use the shower in this situation is a good question.
I don't know. Perhaps they got covered in sort of like engine coolant pushing on.
Maybe they just feel so dirty that they just wish to really, really be clean. Is that something that they can never scrub?
Okay.
Best chow of the rest of your life.
So, like I noted, you've managed to work around the problems now. So you've managed to restore the position of the ship. You still have suffered damage, however. That can only be repaired when you get back to Starbase. And any further damage that happens will, of course, be compounded. Shields are now down, which is a problem.
Slightly.
Commander, we're running out of time here.
I think we are going to have to attempt the gravity wake first. Or the slipstream wake first. It would be my recommendation. It's the one that's likely to cause less damage to the ship.
So, what's the plan? What you gonna do? How you gonna do it?
Okay.
It's going to be charged the warp engines to do a short warp jump, but not actually jump to warp.
Oh.
Now, was that a Davis? Was that a Davis for? Ooh, I've just had an idea, or ooh, I've just thought of something bad.
That was.
Yes.
All the above.
I am thinking we take a. Right. Commander, I have a plan. It might get us out of here, but we can't hold a full warp field where we are. There's too much interference. It's gonna it's gonna crush us into a paste. We can stutter jump. We can stutter the warp drive on for fractions of time in order to get us out of the out of gravity for a small fraction of seconds. Engines on full. It'll stutter us out. It's gonna burn shitloads of power.
It's going to put the hull under an exorbitant amount of stress.
Yes.
as well. It could.
That's the best option I've got for you. Unless you've got anything you can do with your friends on the other side.
I think the final solution is the quantum torpedo annihilation, full spread quantum in towards the aperture. So the actual focal point of the aperture. The only problem that has is it could tear the reality open further, and if our space and their space start leaking across into each other, we're going to have a continual explosion going up in this area that will wipe out both universes. So let's not do that. I am for the essentially buddy hopping the warp field. It is going to put the exterior of the hull under an immense amount of stress. But I don't think there's much more we can do at this moment in time, because at the minute we haven't got the power to do anything else at the minute.
Okay.
I would appreciate thoughts from everyone on the bridge.
Okay.
I think navigating this kind of maneuver might be tricky, so if we could just, because we're not sure where we might end up, so if we can just have sensors try and find a relatively clear route in case we like I said, we don't know where we're gonna end up exactly.
Okay.
So we want to point the ship in as safe a direction as possible.
Alright, so this sounds like the workings for an extended task.
Yeah, the initial thing would be that all non-essential personnel are to seek refuge in the core locations of the ship. Because we are potentially going to have the outer hull buckling.
So that's already one thing to find good navigation. That's a second thing to do evacuation procedures to get people out of unsafe areas of the ship. There's probably going to be another bit where you're going to need to, tune the engines ready.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be a case of shut all remaining available power to the monoliths. Because they are we're going to effectively ignite them, shut them down, reignite them, shut them down. It is going to cause their shutdown procedure is going to be scrambled.
I'm going to be shutting down a lot of safeties and running lots of madness. One of the worst ones I'm going to need is I'm going to be powering the system from the main and then the backup reactor alternately, because that's the only way I can keep getting this to work. I'm also thinking I'd need an extra pair of hands at engineering, but oh god, it's all going to go belly up problem.
Okay, so this does sound like something that would be an extended action, an extended task, a series of linked tasks all together. Difficulty, let me think. Each time you get a breakthrough, you're going to reduce the difficulty down by a bit, so the difficulty is going to start at 4. Make the work track about 10 might be too long because you don't have that much time before power gives out entirely. So I'm going to make the work track 8. The magnitude of this is going to be 4, so I will do that then. So, escape the aperture. Put that there. Alright, so
Quick,
we have...
It's there! Shoot it! Kill it!
We have the workings of an extended task. So, if I read this correctly, one of the first things you're going to want to do is plot the safest course. That sounds like a sensors and/or navigation type jobby. So that could definitely be done as a Natala, Latude, Thazanan job. With difficulty 4. Pardon me. So let's start with that. So who wants to be primary on that? It would make a certain amount of sense that Natala is, but also because Thazanan is Chief Helm Officer, he has got astronavigation as a focus, so that would also make sense that Cavall would be lead as well. So, what do you guys think? Who should lead?
I'm happy to let Cavall lead.
Okay. Who hasn't rolled much tonight?
I'm at 8. Davis is at 9. Alex is at 9.
I mean, Jan's going to be rolling cause.
Oh, Sean's at 8 as well. Yes, there's 2 8s, 2 9s, a 10, and a 13. But then again, that's on total dice, not how many times you've rolled. Gareth hasn't rolled for a while, I don't think, have you?
Yeah, so Gareth, you could probably be Natala then.
Okay.
Sean, if you want to stay as Latude. So Natala obviously gets sensor operations as a focus. Latude at the moment being operations officer. He hasn't got any focuses, but he can certainly use control and science to assist in order to help plot a navigational course. The best one that will prove the least trouble as much as we can. So that's, like I said, difficulty 4. 1 success so far from Latude. So we can have
I was thinking that. Oh, okay. No, I don't have the best of best of science. I'm not sure what I should be using on this task.
Well, con certainly is, but as far as rather than control, it would probably be... I could probably go with reason, because he's using his knowledge of navigation to try and help plot a course.
I'll use point of momentum as well, I think.
Yep. So we've so far got 3 successes. We just need 1 more. And you get 2. So there we are.
Subtract. Let me put the momentum back. I didn't roll 3 dice. But it's fine.
Okay, so that's 1 breakthrough, bringing the overall difficulty down. So that was first job done, and done nicely. Alright, so working together, the 2 guys on sensors and the chief helmsman both managed to plot what they think they're pretty sure is the best, safest route to take when the short shot jumps happen. So that was a nice breakthrough there. Okay, so next in line is going to be probably someone in command, with help from whoever. With probably command and communications would be good for this, trying to get the crew to evacuate all unsafe places and go to concentrate themselves on the safest parts of the ship, because this is going to obviously be a very bumpy ride. So it would make sense for Andrews to be the lead, with the communications officer being an assist. The doctor's also possibly a good one also, because he has knowledge of evacuation. He would probably have knowledge of evacuation procedures and would have to, coordinate with the medical crews to get people to safety, make sure people are locked down safely. So I can definitely go with an assist from Bertram and Edwards on Andrews' primary.
Yeah, I need to spend the momentum as well then, guys.
Oh, yeah, so therefore, sorry, what am I rolling?
So let's see. For Bertram, you're going to be giving orders, so this is going to go on your presence and command. It's definitely going to be presence and command, but a point can be made for control and command from Andrews.
Yeah, I'd say control and command is that it's. Although she's not the most, she's not the most present on the ship. She's currently the one that has to stay the most focused.
Yeah. And knowledge of procedures and which departments to call. I can go with that. As far as Edwards, you being communication officer, so you can definitely use control and.
I don't think I've really got anything
science,
useful.
I suppose, to make sure that the proper evacuation procedures are being activated, the proper announcements are being made, and the communications are going through to the right departments. So you're basically working the communication systems.
And that's as an aid, did you say?
That's as an aid, yes.
Can I use Starfleet protocols for Gareth?
Yeah, absolutely.
Third time I've done that.
Pay for me control or presence? I got a bit confused there.
For you, I can go with presence, but if you want to make a case for control as well, since I just conceded the point with Andrews, I can be persuaded.
I want to control the situation.
He wants to save his moss.
No, to be honest, it's a thing of number 1 priority is the health and safety of the ship and the people of the ship, rather. As
parts first.
So it would be a case of accessing the computer and activating all the security, emergency procedures, making sure that they're all initiated. So yeah, control. I can go with control.
Very much.
But it is definitely going to be command as well. 1
Yay,
success. We need
success.
2 more successes from Commander Andrews to make this this one work. 2 successes. So that was done on the money. That's a nice breakthrough. That also brings the difficulty down, and that advances the work track nicely. Okay, so evacuation procedures are initiated. You guys who are doing them all know what you're doing and perform them with great speed and efficiency. Nice. We have got 6. Right, so it was 4 altogether. So the next one is going to be engineering related, as the engines now need to be altered so that, as you noted, their safety procedures need to be taken offline in order that the ship is allowed to hop jump, which isn't recommended under standard security safety protocols.
Yeah.
So this is going to make Natala start wringing her hands.
Right. Ironically, I'd like to burn the momentum to do procedural compliance for this. I'm breaking procedure. Sorry, I'm intentionally following non-standard protocols by digging out the procedure for how to do this, and I'm pulling up the manual because this is not something you want to fuck up.
How do you exceed the regulators?
No, disabling regulators in emergency situations, Chapter 17, Section 7. Oh God, okay.
Because you are trying to make the ship's engines perform as they're not meant to perform, I'm going to put 2 points of resistance into this. But I will say that your advantage from previous for your engineering crew does still apply as a trait, as an advantage.
Right, so the engineering crew gives me a reroll on that, doesn't it?
It basically lowers. I'm using the advantage of the engineering crew to lower the difficulty.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I've burnt 2 momentum, so I'll take that off. Because I'm pulling the procedural stuff. I think this is probably more reason and engineering rather than control.
Okay, a case could be made for daring, but reason as well, yes.
Okay. And I have focus on what field shit, so I'm claiming that.
I'm going to add a threat to up the difficulty of this, because this has the potential to go very wrong.
Yes! And the best bit is, this is in the setup. It's gonna go fine in the setup!
So difficulty is now back up to 2.
Right, does anybody want to help check my work?
One of
escape pods.
one of the better ones to assist with this is probably going to be Natala, Lechude probably as well as Ops Officer. Because he's going to be responsible for shunting power around, so a case could be made definitely for Lechude as Ops.
Yeah, Lechude checking the power plan for this as an assist.
So, however Sean thinks it should do, I don't know, control and engineering, yeah, looks good to me. Yeah. None of Lechude's focuses really apply, because this is his first time at the job of Ops, but you never know if he appears again. Right, so far Lechude tries to use standard procedure to put power through 3 successes from Vibers, which means you get 1 over and above what you need.
Yep, I'm just wondering whether it's worth pulling in the reroll and getting 1 more.
Up to you.
Alright.
No harm in trying.
Reroll
It's just that we just get the complication.
So you're re-rolling Lechudes, yes?
I just did, it didn't help.
Right.
Cool.
So yes, no matter how much you give him enthusiastic commentary on how best to actually reroute power around the ship to enable the changes to the engines, Lechude is adamant that his way was the right way.
Damn it,
Yep.
Lechude.
So that's
Okay.
So that's the navigational course plotted, the evacuation procedures done, and now the engines altered. There was one more. There was one more task left,
We need
and this is
to do it, I think.
basically plugging it all in together. So
Okay.
this is definitely going to be another engineering lead, but it's
So,
whoever you now
I'm
want to
on
pick from
God,
anybody and
keep it all
everybody.
ticking. Latude's on emergency, don't let it run out of power.
Okay, so Latude's helping. Probably again with control and engineering. Anybody else want to volunteer their characters to assist? Because this is basically tying everything we've done together, so whoever wants to assist can assist in their own way. So, either command or navigation or anybody. So far we've got engineering and ops. So that's 3 dice so far. We've got an extra 2 that we can field.
Andrews could do with helping, because there's so many people involved. We do need some form of coordination.
Yep, that's a good one. Which leaves 1 more person that can assist.
Which was
So,
this bit that we're doing? The
Make it so.
not the make it so. Natala, technically, I suppose, is that you'd have your first
Or
and sweep.
Cabal.
Yeah, Cabal is the one that's actually doing the job.
So yeah,
Just the navigation.
He's the one.
You're driving, I'm pulling switches like a madman and yelling at the team not to make things explode.
And I'm telling you when to pull the switch. It's all on you, Cabal. I just want to wish you all good luck. We're all counting on you.
so yeah, that makes for a good point. I would imagine Vipers makes the most sense as the lead, because
Yeah.
engineering trying to tie all these changes together. Latude for power, Caval for basically testing bringing the engines up and ready to put them into
Well,
work.
Potentially, yes. Could we swap Latude for me, then, and then it'd be control of command? So basically, is that Andrews runs through the list, the checklist, etc., relaying the command structure, so that we're following the plan that we've got to a T.
Well, yeah, I mean, Latude can still aid, Andrews
Whether we
can still
spend
aid,
momentum or not, yeah.
and
Yeah,
Caval
so
can
Latude-
aid. So that's 1, 2,
Yeah,
3,
so
5.
just means you can't spend
Yes.
momentum.
It does mean you can't
Caval.
spend the momentum. So you're now down
Okay.
to difficulty 2.
So I'm on daring plus engineering.
Okay.
What were you going to say then, yeah?
I was just thinking Cavell can just sort of interpret the changes to the engine relative to how it could affect maneuvering of the ship.
Absolutely.
Sort of
On the
run.
fly emergency flight plan changes, yeah.
So that would
Something
definitely
like
come under helm operations focus for Caval if he wants to do that. Control plus con, reason plus con, daring plus con if he wants to do it. really
Seat to
daring.
his pants. It's written on the back
do
of a
that.
fag packet.
Latude is going to be managing power, so control and engineering again, unless Sean wants to suggest me otherwise.
I don't think he's pretty set on his desk.
He's still definite on how it's supposed to be done. So there's 1 success from Latude. Andrews, you're going to be what was it? Command and control. Control command. There's 1 success from Caval as usual. So anything else is gravy on
Do
the
I
train.
throw a... Okay.
Can't spend momentum, we're fine.
Yeah.
Can I use, I was going to say start purposes of refit battlefield tactics for this? Is basically it's running through the battlefield checklist
I would think more
or survival training.
Starfleet protocols and/or survival training. Because you're using your command to try and patch everybody together to work towards the same end. So, yeah, protocols certainly would suggest themselves. 1 success. So, that's Latude 1 success, Thazanan 1 success, Andrews 1 success, and 1 success gives 4. When it was 2, you get 2 momentum over, and you get your 4th and final breakthrough. So everyone manages to pretty much perform all the necessary duties with alacrity, yet also with a great degree of precision. So you've made your changes to the ship and the engines. You've gone over tying them all in together. You are as confident in the ship's ability now to escape the situation as you're ever going to be. So, I guess it's a case of who gets the thing. So this is going to be basically.
I wonder, should we? I mean, we can assume anti-us are doing the same thing, but should we maybe let them know what we are doing?
I think we relay all comms to the other vessel.
All right,
I
then.
can do that.
Yep, that's no problem for Edwards.
The same wavelength, the same with, and they can get just basically. So then we could effectively have two computers running the calcs simultaneously, and see if there's anything that either computer picks up as a variance that could interfere.
At this point,
with doing it.
transmitting all what we're doing, research data, numbers, and they could be doing the same thing. So we're constantly feeding each other, update, and have both working in synchronicity rather than working by ourselves.
Yeah, that's good. I can go with that most definitely. So this is it then. The final actual doing of the plan. So
It's the final roll. Yeah.
I am now rather than dictate who does what, I am now totally up for you guys telling me who is taking the lead and who is assisting and how you're doing it.
Yeah, for me,
This
it's
is
either
totally your plan.
it's either a Caval or Viper's lead on this. Viper's
They
has
go
been
for Caval.
Viper's has been delegated by Caval.
All right.
Yep, that's fine. It still
This
works.
is-
Okay.
So-
in which case, that's pretty much what we just did again, isn't it?
Someone else can be the ship, because the ship is going to need to assist in some fashion on this.
Yeah.
Again,
And Sean are at lowest dice rolls at the minute.
yep, Sean can be the ship, and I am willing for anybody to justify how the ship is going to aid. It can either be with assisting Caval's navigation, or it can be assisting Viber's engine-related shenanigans. So,
I think engines might be best because we'd like what engines and control.
No, I'd say structure.
Oh, please don't explode.
Yeah.
Structure and engineering.
Structure and engineering is basically to see how well the damn thing is built.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
That worked.
The welds over the previous holes are holding up.
It's got plenty of rooks holding it together.
so that's an assist by the ship. Was Caval doing an assist as well?
Yes, I guess that would be daring and con
Yes,
for the
indeed.
situation.
Now, focus for helm operations and whatnot still apply. Now, this is an interesting point. Push the limits. Environment condition or damage to engines, reduce the difficulty by 1. This doesn't really apply to both because this is you deliberately changing how the ship's engines are working, but nothing else applies from Caval. Not really. His focus is applied though, so that's still fine. So, Flyboy. This basically sounds like control or daring and con, however you want to do it. Daring is the word, and he gets a success. Right, so it's all on Vibers now.
Anyone else hopping in, or can I go through 3 dice through burn my last determination?
Go for it.
Yeah,
Make or break.
Go for the determination. Burn it if you happen to burn it.
Yep. And I think this challenge is in my favour. Steady hands and stay calm. Shit!
6 successes!
Vibers is like, I've done this too many times.
Wow.
Right.
It's better than
Kano
the
is there
simulation.
going,
Wow,
oh god,
indeed.
what am I going to do? And Vibers goes, you've done this twice before. Here's all the memories. Oh yeah!
He puts his hands up to the whole crew. Goes, shh, and just walks up to the core and just starts whispering to it in a language no one can comprehend.
I just
And
went
then
over to the
boom.
console and switched the main switch to easy.
Well then, in that case, the at Andrews's command, the plan is thrown into action, and the ship makes lots of small, rapid, short jumps, and the ship starts to judder and shake. There's a obvious the inertial dampers are having a heck of a time trying to keep everybody from being thrown around like balls inside of a tin can. The engines are protesting an extreme amount of stress on themselves. The hull of the ship is it screeches as the stresses on it try and warp the shape of the thing itself, but you have put all your work in together to project the best course, put the most optimal amount of power into the ship in order to keep it together and keep it moving. And as just as you think the ship can't, or yourselves in fact, can't take any more of the constant shaking
She
back
can't
and
take
forth,
anymore. We don't have the power.
you finally come out the other side as the ship finally completes its series of short jumps, and you come to a complete stop outside of the gravity well of the aperture. And everyone sags back into their chairs with a sigh of relief.
It's a wet wipe that wipes his forehead.
with that wet wipe from earlier. Oh, wait a minute, this is someone else, isn't it? In any case, yeah, with so many successes, you managed to get away without causing more stress on the ship than it would have been able to take, especially since you had your shields down. But, yeah, well done. The ship is now out of immediate danger. Now, there's still the matter of the aperture itself to close. But you do get a message through from your counterparts on the other side saying that they reckon the plan to maybe fire a specially modified quantum torpedo to maybe contain the blast to the aperture might be enough to, with two opposing, one of yours and one of theirs meets at the precise point, could be enough to force the aperture closed. Maybe if the torpedo is attuned just right, so that maybe the energy discharge at the annihilation of both torpedoes could perhaps travel up the energy beams that are being fed to each aperture by its opposite number. You could maybe shunt a power surge up each energy beam and maybe cut off the energy that's feeding the apertures. Am I making sense there?
Yeah, effectively what you're saying is that we use the shockwave to blow the energy that's feeding the aperture apart.
And
We just have to modulate the frequency to match that of the beams.
yeah.
Yes.
Good job we got a science officer.
So I have
Engineering
got.
panicking.
The engineering deck is trying to sort of like stop the warp cores from breaching.
Duct tape and a prayer, I believe, is the description that the chief engineer gives when asked. But this is now going to be a case for the science and tactical departments to outfit the quantum torpedo warheads precisely. So I have no more threats to throw at this, so I'm going to keep this at difficulty 3, and I'm going to let you guys decide how and who you're going to use for it. Since you guys have done such a stellar job so far tonight.
I think the ship can have a play with
Yep.
weapons and security.
So, yep, needs a bit of tinkering, probably from someone on science, so an assist. So maybe if the tactical officer is the primary, an assist perhaps from someone from science, maybe also an assist from someone in command, just to make sure it all gets tied together nicely. Gareth, since Bertram hasn't had much to do, maybe you can be either the ship or the tactical officer?
Our chief engineer's feeling confident for the viewers. Yes, confident.
I mean, Sean, Gareth, you guys can maybe choose amongst yourselves who wants to be the ship and who wants to be the tactical officer.
Yeah, I said I'll be the ship.
Hey, Sean, you get to shoot things. So, let me think. The ship, the shooter, and we need the science. So, Natala makes sense?
Definitely.
So, whoever wants to be Natala, Webby, Alex, either of yourselves?
Yep, I'm just looking for her. There she is. Was it reason plus science, or?
Yeah, that'll do. Can reason as to the frequency that the energy output needs to be made for the torpedo, and then of course it comes down to actually firing the thing and getting it to explode at the right point at the right time. So I'm making this difficulty 3. So in case it wasn't clear, Natala assisting, the ship assisting, and the tactical officer being the primary.
If we're shooting, would that be weapons and command? Have I got that right?
Weapons and... let me have a look. Okay, 3 successes. So as far as the ship is concerned, it's going to be weapons and security.
Better. Yay!
So, 3 successes from Ensign Oradas. Well done, Sean. And Natala makes the modification. The ship aids in the shot, and the quantum torpedo. Oh, that's a shame. Launches out of the torpedo bay, streaks on target towards the aperture, and explodes. And the resultant power surge travels back up the beam towards the arch and disables the beam, which closes the aperture. Well done. So,
Okay, I think we're good to go. Permission for us to leave now, Commander.
And help.
Please.
Helm set course for the starbase. Maximum impulse for now. Let's give the walkers a chance to discharge, shall we?
Nice.
Dr. Bertram, any improvements to our patients within sickbay? Any additional casualties that we need to be aware of?
okay, it's funny you should ask that, because the dock. Because of the awesome piloting and work of everyone involved, there were no casualties because the ship managed to take just enough to its hull that nobody got hurt. So you've had no more patients coming into sickbay, and as soon as the
Put me out of
aperture
a job
closed,
this week.
as soon as the aperture closed, the betazoids regained consciousness.
Okay.
So we do get Lieutenant Nova and the Bravos all
I
check
get
out.
it. It's the anti-betazoids that were influencing the betazoids.
So, Nova and the Bravos will remember, especially Nova, who was trying, at the time, Nova was trying to really push herself, her mind and personality as aggressively as possible into the archway when the arch was activated and the whole thing went shebang. What Nova and the Bravos remember is that as soon as the aperture opened, they were all overwhelmed by this presence that suddenly they became aware of. It's possible it was proximity that made them all keel over from the sheer magnitude of the telepathic contact that came out of it. But now that they've all had time to, process what happened, each of them, Nova and the Bravos included, all remember overwhelming, not over the overwhelming sense of presence, but also there was a message attached to that presence. And with some thought over their experience, Nova and the Bravos can all confirm that the general sense they got of that message was 2 words: free us. So, sometime later, the ship is a safe distance from the Beta Niobe system. The Bravos and Nova have all been checked out by Dr. Bertram and have been cleared for duty, as there's no obvious damage sustained from that psionic overload. All their telepathic and empathic abilities are intact. It was just, sensory overload, as you quite rightly predicted. Admiral Stoker, as soon as the aperture closed and the betazoids all regained consciousness, Admiral Stoker confirms that she no longer could feel the presence herself anymore. And even though she seemed a little bit disappointed at not being able to feel the presence anymore, she definitely seems galvanized, determined now, and Nova, whenever in the presence of Stoker at that point, definitely has overwhelming Stoker has the overwhelming emotion of determination coming off of her now. Kind of that feeling you get when your all of your suspicions have been confirmed, and now you know what needs to happen next. So Nova gets that definite impression from Stoker that she's a woman who's now set her mind to what needs to happen next as a result of what she's just experienced and what she now knows. Lechude had a time as operations officer, so when Nova comes to retake her position on board the bridge as operations officer, Lechude is actually not that sad to have to relinquish his position. In fact, this is the longest he's been around most of the crew for any period of time, and he's quite keen to get back to the solitude of his transporter room.
I think we did say he's the 8th in command, didn't we?
Something like that.
So yeah, it is noted that his services to the safety and well-being of the crew is appreciated, and that he is a capable operations officer.
Nova does find, however, that Lechude has put in a few little notes. He's put a little bit of computer code in for how he recommends Operation Power redistribution should be handled from now on.
She's got to readjust the chair.
Oh yeah, and her butt groove is now firmly no longer her own. So eventually the ship is able to go to warp. The engines are fine coping with regular warp travel, but like I noted, the sensors and the engines did take damage which will need repair back at Narendra Station. Admiral Stoker herself comes back onto the bridge and commends everybody for their heroic actions, and also makes note to commend Commander Andrews on her capable command of the ship. She says she leaves the bridge and the operations of the ship in Andrews' more than capable hands, and will be in the captain's ready room if anybody needs her.
Once she goes off to the ready room, is that Andrews will ask Natala and Security Bravo Nova and Security Bravo to come with her to the prisoner cells for a interrogation.
Okay.
As we have a visitor on board who we haven't actually told Stoker who it is yet.
That's right, you haven't. So,
she seems
okay.
to be going anyway, so it's fine.
So, when you eventually get down to the brig, the security officer is there monitoring the force field. It gives you a nod as you all enter. And Tannenbaum, who is still in her suit, is currently lying down on the what do you call it? The bunk. And as she as you all walk in, she just moves her head to see you all walk in, but doesn't get up. I feel I need to apologize. I've never been stunned before. That really hurts. A headache I had from being stunned. Oof. How are you, Sophia? I stunned you pretty hard that time.
I've had worse.
Oh, I don't doubt it. And she sits up at this point. So,
are we going to play cooperative, or are we going to play difficult?
Well, that entirely depends on you, Commander. What exactly do you think you're going to get out of me?
Nothing on the surface level. I'm pretty confident that you're not going to give anything away, hence why Lieutenant Bravo and Lieutenant Nova are both here to assist in the conversation.
I'm sure they could, ordinarily. How are you finding it, Nova? Incidentally, Nova and Bravo, at this point, cannot read anything from Tannenbaum. It's just like a void.
She's still in the suit, is she?
Yeah, she's still wearing the suit.
No, we took her out soon.
I seem to recall that as a matter of expediency, you left her in the suit. You took her helmet off, but you left her in the suit.
I thought the plan was that we were stripping her of all technology.
Oh, okay. Then in that case, when you get to, let me walk that back a little bit. When you get to the brig, you will find Ensign Natik there, who has a very sheepish droop to his antenna as he informs you that they tried to take Tannenbaum's suit off, but when they tried to, they found there were a lot of what looked like anti-tamper mechanisms on the suit, and they didn't want to risk anything. So they left her in it. They thought she'd be safer if she was behind a force field. So, we've got 1 minute, I'm afraid, before we have to call this to an end. So, if you... I can pretty much summarize and say that Tannenbaum is obviously unwilling to give you any information. The telepaths cannot read anything from her because of this strange void. So they're unable to get anything out of her.
the only question that Andrews will ask directly is, who is Philippa?
All she does at that point is, all Tannenbaum does at that point is kind of gives a small smile out of the corner of her mouth. Isn't that interesting? Well, if you don't know, then I guess it's not my place to tell you. I guess we'll just have to wait for my debrief back at Narendra Station. If you don't mind, I need to get some rest before I'm interrogated by security forces there. So she just lies back down and puts her hands behind her head. Oh, and as you make to leave the brig, she calls out after you. Watch out for Stoker, although I'm sure I don't need to tell you. She's crazy. And we're going to leave it there for tonight. So well done, guys. You successfully completed, what are we on now? Episode 9?
9.
Return to Beta Niobe. So there you are. So, which means that the customary calculation of reputation and milestones will be handed out as downtime in between sessions. So yeah, cool. I hope you all enjoyed that. Today's one was mostly different because I basically wanted to see how you guys would handle getting out of the situation with the aperture, and yeah, you came up with all your own ideas and implemented them. So yeah, cool. Well done. I have no real closing notes, nothing that can't be given as a summary to what happened in between episodes. Is everybody here for next week?
I won't. Well, I will be around from probably about 9:30.
On the Tuesday?
Yes, because I am on late shift support, so I don't finish work until 10 PM German time.
So, in that case, since it is the beginning of an entirely new episode, check my notes. Would you rather we postpone for a week so that everyone gets to start together?
I'd much rather let everyone carry on, and I say I'll join as soon as I can. Might be slightly earlier, so it might be about 9 o'clock-ish, depends. I've got no issues with letting everyone else start without me.
So, what you're saying is that Andrews was on night shift that day.
Yeah.
Alright then. Well, in that case, if there's nothing else anybody wants to add to the end of that? Cool. Then I will thank everybody for coming, everybody who was watching the stream, thank you all for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Live long and prosper, and hailing frequencies are now closed.
Nerd.